Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Sekhie Reacts to Fate. This week, Muramasa.
And by that we mean this week it is truly Sekhie Reacts to Fate. Because the list that you gave me could be described as nothing other than a product of fate.
Completely
Literally
disconnected things.
Nothing other than just a product of fate. Also, aren't we covering EMIYA today?
Yes.
Yeah.
EMIYA will come up. You will come up. But Sekhie Reacts is a series framed around your knowledge and research into historical figures and mythological and literary figures.
Yes. So let me get my 5 minutes of glory out of the way. And then we can get to your 45 minutes of pain.
I gave you a few other stories you can latch onto.
I'm not. We've already talked about the Varja. We've already talked about fronting. We've already talked about Kaladbolg. We've already talked about Excalibur, and we already talked about the Kusanagi no Tsurugi in previous videos.
What was it? The
Oh yeah, the Gongjian and Mo Yu.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing you gave me besides Muramasa that we have not already So, for Excalibur, see the Artoria video and then see the Roundtable video. For Kaladbolg, see Fergus McRoy and Queen Maeve. For the Varja, I talked about it when we did Rama and Sita. For Kusanagi no Tsurugi, I think we covered it when we talked about Ushiwakamaru. Or Tamamo no Mai. I know we covered the Kusanagi no Tsurugi in one of those. Yeah. Because that's the grass cutting sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I definitely remember, I mean, it's probably in my little notebook down there from whichever video we did it in. So like, oh yeah, and we talked about hunting when we did Beowulf. Because it's Beowulf's sword! So you've now been given a breakdown of all of the weapons except for the one by Gongjian and Mo Yu.
There's also, we didn't cover, and it's funny that we didn't cover it because we did a bunch of stuff on the Iliad and Odyssey recently.
Ajax the Greater.
Yep.
He was mentioned.
Yeah. But this is so far going to be your best chance to say your piece on him.
That's fair. That's fair. So I guess we'll start with Muramasa, right? Which for some reason I had written down as Senji Muramasa, not Sengo. Which was, I'm assuming that's just a choice being made or like a different translation.
I think it is a different translation because there's nothing I've known that's that would lead to that.
All right, I'm just curious about it because I think in Fate it is Senji.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Sengo. Okay. So Muramasa was a swordsmith. He lived during the Muromachi period, which was the 14th to 16th centuries, which means that he's got this really fun place of like historical context where he's before the Sengoku Jidai and the battles of like, you know, Nobunaga and all that stuff, which means that when talking about the Tokugawa really valued Muramasa blade work, right? So it became a thing in the couple hundred years after sort of the beginning of this period. We don't actually know much about Muramasa himself. He's a very... I want to say the word is like enigmatic, right? Because I assume that there's probably some sources about him in Japanese that I can't access that maybe say more about him, but there's not a whole lot available to the Western world outside of his works, right? Like the swords essentially and the schools around them. So the fun part of the incorporation of Muramasa blades into the Tokugawa period of history is because those blades were used in anti-Tokugawa movements primarily. Like those blades were often possessed and used against the powers that be of the Tokugawa movement, which is interesting because the Tokugawa period was arguably, I mean, it's kind of the downfall of the samurai because they went from being well, the downfall of what we view as sort of the chivalric romantic perception of a samurai as a warrior loyal to their lord, because they basically were downgraded into like glorified accountants who were allowed to wear a sword, but who had less financial sway than the merchant class, who was theoretically lower on the totem pole than them, who were then able to just purchase their children like swords and positions of power, which is absolutely wacky. I think that's fun when it happens in any period of history, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a real good reason for people to get real mad and fight back.
I mean, you either incorporated and became a poor accountant, or you became an actual murder hobo.
Yeah. Like the Batosai, the man killers,
Mm-hmm.
which we talked about before. So, I think some of the notable works here to be mentioned are some of the swords that are available in national collections throughout Japan. But there is the Miyoho Muramasa, which is designated as an important artwork, as well as several other weapons that are held in collections across Japan that are attributed to being made by the swordsmith Muramasa. Supposedly, this particular sword was in possession of the first daimyo of the Saga domain, and then passed down to the successors of the Ogi domain through the ages. Ironically, we don't actually have that many Muramasa swords. Then again, it's kind of hard to have anything survive that long. You know what I mean? Even the Kusanagi no Tsurugi is said to have been forged in around the 9th century-ish, I think. Like the current one that is held in the possession of the imperial family is said to have been forged in the 9th century. And the copy that is held by the imperial family for use in coronations wasn't forged until the 12th century, which I thought was really interesting, because that's still a pretty old sword, you know, like 12th century. I mean, granted, we've seen
900 years ago.
That's a long time ago. That's a very old sword. Imagine how many heads it's taken. Actually, not that many, because it's been a ceremonial possession. So the origin of the Muramasa school of swordsmithing is actually unknown. The earliest sword that we have that has the sign of Muramasa and a date is dated to 1501. However, historians say that there are several swords dated earlier than that who are part of the Muramasa school. Supposedly, the first Muramasa might have been a student of Masamune, the swordsmith in the 13th century that's very famous in Japanese history. And it's possible that he was a student of the Honami family, which were sword connoisseurs and polishers. However, this is interesting because, you know, the Azuchi Momoyama period, right? Like right before the beginning of the Tokugawa period, mm-hmm. Historians at that time thought that was a fantasy story. That, like, there's no way that Muramasa could be connected to Masamune. That's just a made-up lineage for him. But modern historians have put forth the idea that there might have been a connection as well. So it definitely hasn't been sort of trampled down upon.
I mean, it wouldn't be that surprising. They're both swordsmiths that had their swords in high places.
Exactly.
So the connection's not that out of the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm. So, in relationship to their what's the word for it? Animosity with the Tokugawa dynasty in general. It's literally referred to as the swords being cursed when they are held by the Tokugawa family. So anytime a misfortune happens to a member of the Tokugawa clan, it is related to Muramasa. And it's specifically because a lot of these swords, the Muramasa swords, were used by the samurai of Mikawa. So that's where the Matsudaira family comes back into this. And so, like, for example, Ieyasu's first son, Matsudaira Nobuyasu, when he committed suicide, the person who beheaded him used a Muramasa blade. It's so funny to me then that, like, with all this talk of, like, cursed like swords and like their bad relationships with the family, that the Tokugawa dynasty still really favored these swords above all else. Like, numerous members of the Tokugawa household held Muramasa swords and passed them down. In fact, the Owari Tokugawa family actually still holds 2 swords today as heirlooms.
A lot of this stuff just ends up being very pop rumor-ish.
Well, yeah, but it's still a little funny, you know? Yeah. They also hold Tonbogiri, which was a spear forged by Masazane, who studied under the Masamune school, which is interesting. And they hold several other swords forged by students of the Masamune school of swordsmithing. So not just Masamune swords, but the swords of his students as well. Eventually, though, near the latest part of the Tokugawa period, like in the 1840s, literal scholars and bureaucrats wrote about the solid association of Muramasa with sinister events in the time of Tokugawa. That they are cursed items and they should be banned from the family. They were curse bringers, and that's why anti-Tokugawa activists would try to acquire Muramasa blades and use them against the Tokugawa. In fact, during the Boshin War, Arisugawa Taruhito, the prince, used a Muramasa blade to raise up against the shogunate at the time. So the Muramasa blades are often depicted as demonic today, essentially, which is, I think, really interesting because it reminds me a little bit of, Scooby-Doo and the samurai sword?
I'm sure this is a direct inspiration, too.
Yeah.
Because this is, like, one of the, like, it's Masamune and Muramasa are the famous, like, Japanese swordsmiths.
Pretty sure one of Zoro's swords is, because one of his swords is cursed.
Mm-hmm.
Or was. Yeah. So I think it's a direct reference to this. So that's mostly the important stuff about Muramasa. There's not much. A lot of it is in the legacy of his school and the swords he made. But essentially what we know about him is that he was apparently a very consummate swordsman. I didn't really go into the details of how like the tang and the blade are forged. But one of the ways you can identify Muramasa swords outside of their imprint is the particular tang and hamon and gunom that's kind of in the way that the sword is represented, you know? Like the way that the metal was folded and cut in the forging process. Now, the most interesting thing you gave me, Ganjiang and Moye. So, I had never heard of the story of the 3 kings, but actually this is fascinating. So a king came to the legendary swordsmiths, Ganjiang and Moye, right? A married pair. And he asked them to forge for him blades, right? In 3 months' time. But the problem was the metal that they bought to melt didn't melt in the blast furnace to forge the swords. And so according to legends, Mo Yue and Ganjiang contributed their own fingernails and hair to the process to give human energy and human ki into the melting of the metal. And in one version, Mo Yue casts herself into it, but then that doesn't work with the rest of the story. So, yeah, we're going to go with the one where they just use their hair, and then they had a bunch of children breathe on the furnace to kind of incorporate a bunch of human energy into it, and they finally managed to smelt these 2 swords, right? A male and a female, and they named them after themselves, right? The Ganjiang and the Mo Yue. And one was the male, one was the female. So Ganjiang kept his own sword, the male one, Ganjiang, and presented Mo Yue to the emperor. But this was 3 years after he had asked for the sword to be forged in 3 months. And the emperor was incensed when he found out that he'd been presented with the female sword 3 years late, right? That's ridiculous. So he had Ganjiang killed, and Ganjiang had left a note for Mo Yue telling her and their unborn son, right, whose name is T.H.E, where he had left the blade, Ganjiang. So Mo Yue dies as a result of complications of the birth, and T.H.E goes out to seek vengeance against the man who had killed his father. But the king has a vision of a young man who's coming after his head, and puts a bounty on his head. And so he's kind of lost and at odd ends. He doesn't know quite what he's going to do. And he comes across an assassin. And he's crying and sobbing, and he tells this assassin his story. And the assassin says, well, what you could do is you could take your own head, right, with the blade, and then I will take the head and the blade to the king, and I will kill him for you, right? And the assassin did not have any intention to do this initially, but T.H.E did it. He cut his own head off after telling the assassin the story, and because of his sincerity, the assassin agrees to follow through on their deal. He takes T.H.E.'s head to the emperor and the sword and presents them to him, and the emperor is unnerved by the head of this young man staring at him. He has it boiled in a vat. It does not come apart. For 40 days, it doesn't decompose, and it just stares at him. And so the assassin one day, because he's kind of staying as advisor to the king or something, I don't know, he suggests that he get a closer look at the head, and as the king leans over the cauldron, he cuts off the king's head and then cuts off his own, right? So all three of their heads fall into the boiling cauldron, and they're all boiled into sort of unrecognizable shapeless lumps at this point. And then the guards cannot tell whose head is whose, so they bury all three together in the grave of the three kings, honoring all of them equally for their loyalty and conviction. Which is absolutely wild to me. Like, what the fuck? That is a gruesome story. I'm here for it. Like, I'm here for it, though. There are two Ajaxes in the epic cycle of the Trojan War, right? The Ajax the Greater and Ajax the Lesser, right? And so this is Telamonian Ajax, Ajax the Greater. His parents were Telamon and Paraboea. He did have a couple siblings. Ironically, not Ajax the Lesser. They were not actually related. Well, they might have been related, but they were not brothers.
Related in the same way everyone in Greek mythology
exactly! Probably from Zeus. Greek mythology without Zeus there. It's really be that much. You good?
Yeah, ignore me. I'm just cleaning my glasses because they are dirty.
Would you like a glasses cleaning cloth?
Let me see how well I do this time.
Okay. I've also got some glasses cleaning liquid somewhere. So, and on the note of all of the Greek heroes being related by probably Zeus, Ajax is his grandson. I think that's an important thing to note here. So he is in fact related to pretty much every single other hero who has ever been attributed to a god, because, you know, at least one of the major 12 gods, because Zeus is related to all of the major 12 gods. So if anyone is... It's a messy family. It's a messy family. So in the Iliad, Ajax is chosen to meet Hector in a duel, and this is the one where Ajax and Hector are distracted from finishing their duel by Zeus, and then he gives Hector his war belt, and Ajax gives Hector his sword, right? We talked about this before. The sword swapping is important. Eventually they would fight again near the battles with the Greek ships. Ajax almost kills Hector once again by throwing a rock at him, but his strength is stolen from him by the gods and then returned to him less than a book later, so that he can attack the ships properly. Ajax the Greater, being of strong, manly, godlike descent, almost single-handedly holds off the Trojan armies from the ships. But once again, he and Hector come to duel again in the next book. Hector disarms Ajax, and Ajax is forced to retreat. And eventually, Ajax causes the death of Phorcys, one of the other characters that's significant in the story. He's often portrayed as fighting alongside his brother Teucer, and his shield is a really big thing, right? So the shield of Ajax that he uses. So Ajax is mostly present in the Iliad through the period where Achilles is absent. So sort of in the absence of Achilles, because he's moping over Briseis, Ajax kind of comes in. He holds the line. He faces Hector. He stands at the front lines of pretty much every single major battle. And he's the one that the gods are fucking with, in the place of some of the other characters who the gods really like to fuck with. Ajax, with the help of Menelaus, are the ones who eventually succeed in retrieving Patroclus's body from Hector after his armor is stripped, and they managed to return it to the Greeks, which was a big thing for Achilles, so good for Ajax. He needed his boyfriend's body back so he could cry over it. We love this for him. Ironically, near the end of the Iliad, Ajax and most of the other Greek warriors are alive and doing real great. However, and even when Achilles himself dies, right, killed by Paris, Ajax and Odysseus are once again. Ajax is the one who fights to get his body and bring it back to the Greeks so that it can be properly buried. Ajax tries to compete to be allowed to take Achilles' armor now that he's dead, and eventually Odysseus manages to convince people to give it to him instead of Ajax. I think Ajax should have gotten it. I'm going to be honest here, because Ajax, upon not getting the armor that he thought he deserved, which, to be honest, he was kind of the MVP up to this point, he takes the sword of Hector that was given to him in their first exchange, plunges it into his chest, and kills himself. The Greeks. Delightfully morbid.
There's actually some accounts, or not accounts, there's like some myths, some like short stories between him and Masamune. I was surprised you didn't bring any of those up. This is
because I didn't look up Masamune.
Well, Muramasa's
they're two different people.
Yeah, Muramasa and Masamune, like they're like the rivalry between their swords.
Yeah, but you didn't give me Masamune, so I didn't look up Masamune.
We don't need to go into depth on Masamune at all.
I stayed the fuck away from Masamune.
He's literally not a servant at this time.
Well, how was I supposed to know? I did exactly what you told me. And also, respectfully, these two sets of events are happening roughly 2,000 years apart and halfway across the globe from one another.
Yeah, those are, but that's just because, like, I'm gonna tell you right now, the a lot of that extra stuff I gave you is for the EMIYA portion.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't bother to look up Masamune because I figured that would eventually be a different servant later.
Well, and I don't need you to go into like detail on like anything about the history behind Masamune blades, but some of the myths that have come out that came around about Muramasa blades for me are fast because the general stories a lot of them go like this. Muramasa challenges Masamune to a sort of a duel in making katanas, and the two of them toil away and make their swords. And the way they settle their duel to see who made the better blade is they both stick their blades into a pond that's streaming, and the stream coming towards the blade. Muramasa sticks his blade into the pond, and all the leaves, fish, and brush that come through there gets just cleaved in half as it slides past the blade. When Masamune puts his blade in the pond, everything kind of parts around the blade, and the blade cuts nothing but the water it's in.
But how does that relate to Ajax?
It doesn't. I was just circling back around to
Muramasa. I thought you were trying to tell me that this somehow relates to Ajax. Fuck.
No.
I was like, what? There's like, this is minimum 2,000 years apart, and on different continents.
Ajax and I forget the other name because I know what it ties into with fate. That stuff is
Gongjian and Moya.
Yes, that stuff is all for EMIYA. Muramasa separately. That's just the story behind Muramasa and Masamune.
I had heard the stories about Muramasa and Masamune, and I was like, I had mentioned that some people, the historians, sort of believe that they were connected, but they're technically from different historical periods. And if you go at it from the Muramasa side of things, those stories don't come up as often. I would assume if you were to look up Masamune, those stories would come up. But from what I've learned, because I've looked up Masamune once before, is that Masamune actually has a lot more folklore associated with him than Muramasa does. Because Masamune is more of a legendary figure, while Muramasa is like a known historical swordsmith, per se, whose swords are like the vast brunt of his, like, personal.
That little myth I was bringing up there, it's just there to, like, it is an example of sort of the mythicizing of the death that Muramasa's blades bring, because the point of that story is that his blades are bringing death and Masamune's are avoiding unnecessary death.
Yeah.
So.
Fair.
That was just something I would bring, because it's such a short story.
Yeah, fair.
That I thought it would just get that in there. And that is kind of the primary, like, Masamune, Muramasa sort of dichotomy story. Just told different ways.
I really can't wait until I get you to watch either Inuyasha or Rurouni Kenshin, or both. Because swordsmithing and like famous swordsmiths and like the art of Japanese sword making is a pretty decently large part of both stories. And so I think it would be really fun from that kind of perspective to look at it,
It'd probably be fun. I mean, they definitely, like, the themes of, like, even if it's not directly Masamune and Muramasa, like the theme of like the cursed sword and the,
because I don't
the good sword are not that's common in Japanese storytelling.
Spoilers for Inuyasha, A Feudal Fairy Tale, which came out in the 90s. So I'm not concerned. One of the things about Inuyasha is that there's two swords in there, the Tensaiga and the Tesaiga, right? And the one of them, when it doesn't have the ability to cause death when it cuts, right? It like heals and it raises things from the dead when it cuts. And the other one is a destructive force, right? But they're twin swords forged from the same source, right? Tesaiga and Tensaiga. And it's really interesting with that sort of thing. As well as with Rurouni Kenshin, you've got a character who uses like the katana that is shaped the opposite way, right? It's interesting.
Yeah. No, like, I get it. Like, Masamune and Muramasa all over Japanese fiction. I think Ranma has an actual episode dedicated to a Muramasa blade.
There's a reference to it in Soul Eater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. I think there's literally a death weapon in Soul Eater called either Muramasa or Masamune.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly which. It's a cursed blade though, so it must be Muramasa. I would think. Yeah. And like I said, I'm pretty sure one of Zoro's swords is directly based off of a Muramasa with the curse, because he has that one sword that you saw it in Lode Town. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that one specifically. Yeah. That one sword, that one over there. The one that he almost lost his arm over. Like a fucking idiot. No brains.
Well,
I do wanna touch really quickly on the Vajra.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's one of the ones that we probably talked about the least. So the Vajra is it's a ritual item, not a weapon, technically. That's famous for its use by Indra. But it's not only used by Indra, it's used by a bunch of different people in Hindu and Buddhist mythology. But it's like a bell and a ritual object that are used to kill demons. So because the other things we talked about were all swords. Yeah. So that's like the odd one out. The Vajra is a ritualistic object, not a sword.
So Muramasa, what class you thinking here?
So I'm gonna be honest. Be honest. I know it's a saber, and unfortunately, because Muramasa is just,
it's hard to miss that face.
Yeah.
So we don't need to.
There have been times when I've scrolled and I've been like, oh, he's a servant, and then read the name and been like, oh, yeah, no. It's Mr. People die when they are killed.
Yes, it's good old Sword Boy.
Yup. I know exactly what this man looks like. Yup. he joins my crew of I think there's like 4 or 5 characters now who have like a black, white, and red palette. With like the whole skin tone, hair color, etc. Because it's like Rasputin, Amakusa Shiro Tokisada, him, Angra Mayu.
So like 3 of those are like kind of on purpose because Angra Mayu is just another like build. His body's based on Shiro.
Well, that's what I mean. Because they've all got this like same color core vibe and stuff, which I can kind of appreciate. I'm like, at least you're sticking to a theme, you know. I will say I do appreciate the detail of the inside of his Haori being so beautifully detailed. I think it's very pretty. Lovely. I think, based on one other thing you brought up to me, I do have an overarching question about EMIYA and Muramasa and the other characters of this ilk. But I think we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah, you can go and ask me that later if you want.
Just
ask me once you feel like it's relevant.
Well, I feel like it's relevant now because I'm looking at him. But
okay,
is there a reason why this collection of characters based on Shiro gets really, really tan at a certain point, like changes skin color to almost not look the same? Because, like, that's one of the reasons why it was really hard for me to believe that EMIYA was Shiro, because EMIYA basically looks like he's of a different ethnicity than Shiro does. And I get that that's because in anime, like, so people have made the comment there before, people have made comments online before and been like, oh my god, why does anime always, like, draw white people? And that's not what they're doing, right? Like, animes are not drawing white people, right? It's just that, you know, you're portraying Japanese people as very pale-skinned, right? Which is, of course...
Having been around Japanese people, it is kind of true that the Japanese skin tones can range, even like within one's own lifetime, from paler to like, you look at even my grandfather on my Japanese side, like fully Japanese, looks much darker than I do. You've met him. Consider
the Ainu, right? Yeah. Like traditional people of the Japanese Isles. But I am curious as to why several of these characters now go from being white-skinned and red-haired to dark-skinned and white-haired.
Yeah, so...
And I can't think... And here's the thing. I can't think of a valid reason other than as, like, an art style change, right? Just, like, wanting to differentiate one character from... Or one representation of a character from another, right? Or trying to represent some change in, like, the personality or the way that a character behaves. Like, some sort... Like, kind of how... Like, people can go white or gray early, right? Like, you can get white hairs and gray hairs very early. They can be stress-induced. They can be hormonally induced. And you can get, like, very, very dark. I mean, like, my grandpa cooks. My grandpa could pass for being 3 ethnicities darker than he is in the summer.
Let me go down the list of characters here. So, give me one of the characters first.
So, Muramasa, obviously.
So, Muramasa, it's mostly that last ascension, right?
Yeah, because I was going to say, we go from 1 to... 3. White hair, darker skin.
Yeah. So the white hair is absolutely supposed to be getting older. That's absolutely aging, stress. The darker skin, for Muramasa at least, it's more than likely a reference to EMIYA. Like the regular Archer EMIYA. Like, this form is a reference to Archer EMIYA.
Okay.
And Archer EMIYA's skin and hair both get darker and whiter quicker for 2 reasons. The first reason in lore is that he is, if you remember from Fate Stay Night, Shiro is, like, basically burning away at his nerves to use magic, and that's putting a lot of stress on his body. That's causing his hair to go whiter far earlier. We actually see it in one series in anime where you can actually see the start of the white hair forming.
Okay.
And the darker skin, that's also to some extent that, but on another level, that's because you have to remember EMIYA spent a not inconsiderable amount of time wandering the Middle East in the sun. Okay. So he is getting he's getting cooked alive. He's getting tanned.
Okay. And then Amakusa Shiro Tokisada and Rasputin, which I think both get... Do they both get tan? I know Tokisada does.
I know So Amakusa Shiro Tokisada, it's hard because is a non-white-haired form of him, but I don't remember if he gets tan as well. Because he only appears for, like, a brief second.
Yeah.
Most of the time, he starts pretty tan. Let me take a look at the Night Moon Wiki, look at his younger photos, but...
I'm just going to make my life easier and look up Rasputin and Angra Mainyu to see if I'm correct about what I was assuming. It's not spoiling it for me. I don't give a shit. I've already seen these characters. Okay, Rasputin goes blonde, but he doesn't get darker.
Yeah.
Oh, and okay, Angra Mainyu has a reason for being darker.
Yeah, that's just because like actual shadows and.
So it's just EMIYA, Tokisada, and Muramasa. I'm curious about. I do want to know why Rasputin went blonde, but I feel like that's a question for another day because it's unrelated.
Tokisada is a little harder because I barely registered the fact that he got darker as he got older, and I also don't think his darker is nearly as catchable as Shiro's was.
Look, I have no issues with it, right? I think it actually makes for a very striking art because white hair against tanner skin is a very striking combination.
Yeah.
I was just curious as to why. Because it is unusual for a Japanese series to represent people of Japanese nationality with this darker skin color. Anime often keeps a very, very pale skin color. Especially for people under the, like, in their kind of young to middle age. Older, like, grandmas and grandpas can sometimes be represented as, like, darker. And I would assume that's just sun tanning and sun weathering that they're trying to represent. Because, you know, like I said, my grandpa cooks over the summer.
Amakusa, and I had to look at this for a second, does, like, in, like, the brief flashbacks we get from Apocrypha, he does, from his flashback point to the Apocrypha series, at least get tanner, but we don't actually have a lore reason for that.
Okay.
The Shiros we do. And obviously Angra Mainyu is just, that's shadows. That is not even a real, like, living person normally.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. We'll come back to some of this later, though. Okay. Because there is... I kind of see where there's some concern, and that absolutely is relevant later.
I'm going to be honest. I think I can say pretty confidently that it's not something I'd ever really felt concerned about, like, seeing, personally. Like, for me, I think because I've seen so many weird fate choices when it comes to art, and so many different artists represent different characters, I just kind of was like, oh, it's an artistic choice made to, make a very striking character design. Because I do think it's a very striking character design. You know, it's like black hair on someone who's incredibly pale, you know, or, you know, in this case, white hair on someone who's much darker. It's a contrast, right?
Yeah, I think if you want an example that's maybe a little bit less, like...
Altera does the same thing. She's got darker skin with the whiter hair color.
Oh, yeah, that's just a consistent design choice.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, it's a very striking combo.
But, like, if you want... Well, no, I think that's supposed to be shadows. It's hard to tell. I was thinking Trunk Sisters, their final form does darken a bit. So, it is more often than not art style, or sometimes they're saying this character has just spent a lot of time in the sun or wearing away at their bodies.
That's valid. I cook in the sun, too. What the fuck? Yeah, I didn't click anything.
Just click... Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, Shiro here, or Muramasa here, is actually going to be a bit complicated. This is primarily, and with the pseudos we always have to specify this is primarily Senji Muramasa. Shiro doesn't come forward much, if at all, here, but it's kind of like an Ishtar situation, where Muramasa is adopting a part of his host's personality. The thing is that this servant's personality is very boomerish, which gives the subtle confirmation that Shiro is a bit of a grumpy old man.
I don't blame him.
But that's enough about Shiro for now. Muramasa is fascinating because he is one of our first NPC-only servants that stayed non-playable after his initial appearance.
Why?
Well,
tell me why, Knick-Knack.
So his initial appearance was in the Shimosa chapter, and he appeared.
What was Shimosa again?
It's the Musashi chapter. The Edo chapter, basically.
Okay, all right.
In that chapter, he is there as just a character, almost supposed to be a surprise. Like, oh, what the fuck is Shiro doing here?
And that's what I thought when I saw him.
And then the next thing you know, it doesn't sound like Shiro. It sounds like an old man telling you to get off his lawn and how you young people are too rambunctious.
You young whippersnappers.
Yeah. And then he has like a really cool badass moment in that chapter, and everyone's like, when do we get to play as him? And then it takes like
Never.
3 or 4 years until he finally drops in the game.
Oh, so when does he drop in the game?
Do you remember that New Year's where we had a really bad storm?
Was it the one
With the atmospheric rivers?
The one when we were in high school or the one when we were in college?
Well, I was out of college, but...
Okay, so, 2022?
Yes.
2022. Oh, yeah, okay.
So 2020, 2022, depending on your...
Yeah, I remember this particular winter because we had a storm the first week of classes, online classes, because we were still in quarantine, and a power surge knocked out the power to the house and fried my CPU, my brand new CPU, like completely fried it.
Yeah,
this chip broken.
As far as that's the NA release, NA as far as NA server goes, this servant is newer than the channel. As far as JP goes. Actually, the servant might still be newer than the channel, but not newer than Sekhie Reacts.
I was going to say, because the channel started in 2019.
Yeah.
So if he came out 3 years after release, 2022 would make it almost perfect to him being about the same age as the channel.
Yep.
In JP. Aww! This is our servant!
But yeah, in the Shimosa chapter, he was shown as a hermit who was summoned to create the perfect blade capable of cutting wounds through one's own karma, a means of the world to provide an increase to the power of Miyamoto Musashi, one of the few servants who could use a blade like that to its fullest extent. However, after summoning, he would find that the villains of that chapter had torn through the town, leaving a couple kids orphaned. He'd take in those kids and become their grandfather, offering them a home and protection.
Well, that's nice of him.
Yeah. Later on, long after that chapter, another similar but slightly different version of him is summoned. This version is made into an alter ego instead of a saber.
Okay.
And is in the service of the foreign god, the main villain of Part 2.
Yeah.
Muramasa himself plays a very minimal role in any actions taken against Chaldea, instead having his time being assigned to forging a blade capable of striking down gods. This blade is used to kill the Titan Atlas, who is summoned as a servant in secret.
Okay.
But
Atlas is a good guy. He brought us fire.
Yeah.
And I love fire.
Is that a lighter or a taser? That's a taser.
It's a lighter.
After that job was done, he was assigned the task of assassinating Morgan in the British Lost Belt, a task he fails miserably, leading him to be skewered by Melusine and dropped into a pit.
Yeah.
He, of course, survives because it's Shiro.
Of course, because Shiro cannot die, canonically.
And then he goes on to take a mentorship role for Artoria Castor, because he's still everyone's grandfather.
Reed, limping from an arm wound.
Yeah. As a final note, Senji Muramasa makes note of how oddly compatible he is with Shiro's abilities. You know, the entire create swords at exceptional quality through projection sort of thing with him. Muramasa speculates that Shiro may actually be a descendant of his. This in-game theory has never been fully confirmed and remains speculation by Muramasa, but Nasu does describe them as being very similar people in how they live their lives.
I'm going to be honest, I just kind of assumed that they were related. Like, even before you said that, I honestly had just assumed that this was, like, ancestor sort of thing, you know? Like, maybe this is where he got his, like, magic from originally or something, like, way down the line.
It makes some sense, but I can also see how people might be a little upset, like, thematically.
Maybe, but, like, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I kind of like that.
It's a nifty little lore possibility, at the very least.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I headcanon that. All right. I've got some relationships. Truly. This is my downfall. It's
you need me to read some of them. I'll read some of them if you'll listen.
No, it's more of a joke than anything. Miyamoto Musashi. I know her. Not the male one, but the female one. She's noisy, but she was a swordswoman who had guts and bloomed like a flower. It's one of the few records Muramasa brought back to the throne with him. That vagabond. I hope she reaches the point she set her eyes upon at the end. I was desperate to sever cause and effect, but you pushed forward to cut through that void. What a big fool. It's only natural you'll end up like that, right? There's an archer who wears a frilly red outfit, right? I'm not good with him. My back feels itchy when I see him. Damn, what is this feeling? I don't think his outfit's very frilly, but okay. EMIYA alter. At this rate, I don't even understand anything anymore. My back doesn't tingle, but I feel uneasy looking at him. Also, he treats his weapons very roughly. What do you call it again? Commercialism over quality? Stop that, you fool. The sword or the gun. Make it clear which one you want to live by. So Realm's gun sword is canonical.
Yeah, pretty much.
The King of Britain is here. Talk to her properly, okay? That type of king will try to bear everything by herself. What? Is it weird that I'm worried about her? I can't help if I'm genuinely worried, okay? You know, I did forge a lot of the same blades, but ain't there too many versions of you, Your Majesty? Are you planning to dominate every category? I agree. I agree. That energetic young lady holding the staff of selection, was it? Oh yeah, that's right, the girl with the staff. I'm not sure why she bows her head when she sees me, but I wonder if I know her from somewhere. And yet when I talked to her, she said, "There you go again, Muramasa," and starts complaining. Oh, but it's not that bad. Plus, she eats my meals quite a lot. She's a cheerful girl, isn't she? Sometimes she becomes very polite, as if she is a different person, but her roots are the same. The other day, she made me go along with the simulation, saying, "I'm thinking of making a new holy sword, and I'd like you to take a look at it. Please take care of me, old man." Aw, so he cooks too?
It's a Shiro, yeah, he's gonna cook.
That's fair. Shiro cooks, canonically. Ugh, you're the sword instructor of the Tokugawa, huh? It's true that Muramasa is anti-Tokugawa, but it's not like I have a grudge with them or something. It's a property added on due to records in fiction. Well, if said Tokugawa was one of my fans, then surely he'd die holding a Muramasa, though. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die! Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. That's a relief. These ones are as masterful as they sound. It's amazing that people who have thrown themselves so hard into the martial arts can still act like decent human beings. Why is Minamoto no Raiko on that list?
Because despite the archetype they go with for writing her, she's still a really powerful warrior and skilled swordswoman.
Yeah, but this says still act like a decent human being.
That's very true. You know what? Fair enough. Have a nice day.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not disputing the fact that she's a good swordswoman. It's the rest of that sentence I'm disputing. Whoa, what the hell's with that girl? She's huge. Hold on, what's with that divine aura? It can't be. Could it be that girl is the avatar of Ibuki? So that sword, that's the sword of Kusanagi. Holy shit! Offerings! Offerings! What? You're saying I can catch that lady with sake? She's the incarnation of the divine sword. So you're sure she likes divine wine? Damn, I'm so worthless. If I had spent my life making sake, would I have made it by now? There must be a sake god or two in Chaldea, right? Man is fanboying.
Man also might be high-key just a little bit horny.
It's Ibuki Doji. I kinda get it. What good is a man who doesn't die? Is the question I want to ask while using that man as a shield. You're saying when I was an alter ego I fought alongside that guy? No. What? They're getting along well? Is that so? Well, this summoning stuff ain't half bad. Fair. It seems that a hero who possessed one of my short swords fell in love with your life. The winds howl sadly, and the waters of the Yi River are frozen. Brave men once gone, never come back again. Saigo-san is a great man. Do you know him? And then, can you make a katana with a pure white blade and hilt? I sent him away because it was a foolish and unreasonable order, but since I've gone through such great lengths to become a servant, I might as well give it a shot. Fair. Trying for trying's sake, I get it. Lilum Harlot. Alright.
So Muramasa is arguably a very weak component spirit. He's great at making noble phantasms, but usually this isn't paired with any kind of fighting ability, nor is it very practical. But in Shiro's body, he has access to Shiro's abilities, specifically unlimited blade works and projection. So take a man who can make and use any sword he sees a reality, if he can imagine it in a way that is realistic and possible, and then combine it with a man who knows exactly how to expertly create noble phantasm level weapons. And you get a servant capable of creating and using exceptionally powerful weapons that can reach the level of those made by gods. His alter ego version was fused possibly with Susanoo no Mikoto, granting that version of him anti-divine abilities. The Saber version has that ability.
Susanoo no Mikoto was covered in either the Tamamo no Mae or the Ushiwakamaru video.
Yeah. The Saber version has that ability replaced with abilities that counter threats to humanity as a result of the events of the main story.
Interesting. All right. Magic resistance, territory creation, appreciation of swords. Yep, that's fair. Contemporary ill omen. Okay, the wicked sword Muramasa. Sword trial, eye of karma, flame. Using one's body and soul reminds you of the Gongjiang and Mo Yue story, where they're using their own bits.
Yeah, possibly that could be what they were going for there.
I'm just saying. Alright, Noble Phantasm is Tsumukari Muramasa.
So, Muramasa accesses Shiro's unlimited blade works and draws on every sword stored in there. He then breaks them down and uses the materials to craft his perfect blade, a recreation of the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, a sword that emerged from Yamato no Orochi when it was slain by Susanoo no Mikoto.
The grass clipper sword.
Yeah. It is capable of cutting through a reality marble, actually. Prior to the events of Avalon the Fae, using it would be deadly to Muramasa, but following the events of that story...
You got a buff?
Lore buff. It wasn't a buff in game itself.
Well, yeah, but...
But following the events of that story, it's become possible for him to maintain his spirit origin after using it.
Takeuchi. It's the character design.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, is his design is actually...
Absolutely the fuck not. Nope.
His original character design was used for a CE that was supposed to depict an adult Shiro post the events of Fate.
Ah, yeah, I see that. Interesting. Okay. Honestly, he looks like a pretty cool, to use, per se.
Oop. There it is.
Fix yourself. Wow, that did nothing. Can tell he's a little newer, though.
Just a little bit.
Some more detail to his animations. I do appreciate that we're mostly sticking to swords, rather than throwing in anything, like, weird.
He got a hammer.
Yeah, but that's because he's a swordsmith. That makes total sense. You could also drop an anvil on him, and I'd be like, that makes sense. He even punched a sword at them, and I was like, that makes sense.
That's actually a reference to something Shiro does at some point.
Jesus fucking Christ, Shiro.
Yeah, I think I have that written in my script somewhere for today.
Fun fact. With the timing of this video, I know for a fact this was meant to be your birthday gift to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you enjoying that?
I like seeing Muramasa. I have him NP2 in FGONA, so...
Honestly, he looks pretty cool. I almost used him on stream today a few times, because I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to know who Muramasa is, and I scrolled away, but honestly, I am the bone of my sword. To be fair, that does look great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was for a long time one of the fan base's most hyped servants.
It's great. No, I think he looks really good. I do like his art across all three designs. Like, I think all three of his designs are really solid. Like, they really channel the energy of sort of like the traditional Japanese clothing while still managing to be like a little fantastical. They've got like a really strong color scheme going. I just think it looks really good. Yeah. Honestly, put him and Amakusa Shiro Tokisada next to one another, they'd look great together. Like posing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, this is also officially the first servant back that will be able to do new April Fool's art if it didn't have it before.
Yeah, he had it before.
I know he did because he's old enough, but still. Okay. Alright, let's skip ahead.
It should be the same Noble Phantasm.
I just want to check, See if maybe there's anything different. Come on, buddy. Oh, I upped a bunch of my skills on my account today, so you might need a...
I could take a look at your account later if you want.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind having him on my account. Seems like a solid saber.
He's actually kind of fun to use.
Maybe I'll get to experience that soon. Well, it changes his outfit.
Yeah, well, every Ascension changes their outfits.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Now, this is our first arcade in a hot minute.
Oh, yeah, it's been a hot minute since we had an arcade. Damn. I miss arcades. I wish we had more arcades.
Unfortunately, he was one of the last arcade servants added.
Okay, hold on a second.
You have to do this for every last one.
Oh, boy, there's also not much I can do.
Senji Muramasa.
Did you just call himself Oji-san?
Yeah.
I love that for you. We love a man who knows what he wants, and if that is to live a retired grandpa life...
I've affectionately called him Boomer Shiro.
Honestly, I'm kind of here for it. Like, genuinely. He seems just like a really wholesome, like, sword grandpa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I could call him Sword Gramps. Kind of like King Gramps, you know? King Hassan. He feels like another Gramps. It's a very pretty animation. It looks very good.
I've actually never seen that one before now.
I kind of like that we're seeing from blade points at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Look, it's like the EMIYAs when they're not being self-destructive have like they're all man wives.
Mm-hmm. They really are. They are the definition of male wife.
Yeah.
You know, in the kitchen, at home, doing the cleaning. They've got hobbies.
So it's about time we cover Shiro motherfucking EMIYA.
Here's the thing. I have such a love-hate relationship with Shiro, right? Because he is... Fate Stay Night 2006 was a terrible introduction to Shiro, right? Like, limping from an arm wound, people die when they are killed, and he's just insufferable. Blade Works was not any better. Neither was Heaven's Feel. I just kind of hate him. A little bit. And I feel like that's just because, from what I understand at least, obviously you might correct some of this, but like from what I understand, it just seems like he's just there and somehow desperate to try to fix something that he can't fix, but he won't accept that he can't, but he's gonna make it everyone's problem. You know what I mean? I don't know. It makes sense in my head. Anyways, go on. Tell me all about Shiro.
So,
Jesus.
Yeah, you can scroll through for artwork if you want, but I don't recommend looking at all the text. There's going to be way too much.
I mean, yeah, I'll scroll for art, because I do like seeing different artwork, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a huge pile of art.
I would hope so.
Yeah, given that it is the art and design section. Aww. He was a cute kid. What happened? I'm kidding. I wanna... Toras Realta. Yeah, Heaven's Feel.
I'm just going to let you click through this stuff first here.
I mean, you could have been talking while I was doing that.
See, I was going to jump to, like, the new stuff. But I feel like I do need to at least a little bit relitigate some of the old stuff.
I think you probably do, because I have such a spotty memory of just Shiro in general.
Yeah, and in fairness, I'll say this about Shiro. And I can say this now that I've actually read the visual novel.
Uh-huh.
The anime does often fail to properly portray the mental state of Shiro. it makes him a lot stupider than he is in the visual novel.
You know that thing that you had me watch that one time of like the L and Light meetups with like no internal monologue.
Mm-hmm.
That's what watching him in the anime feels like.
Yeah, and then there's just some writing decisions which are baffling.
Because didn't I complain about this before? Is like, I understand that he's supposed to be like kind of the self-insert for you as the player, and because of that, your self-insert is supposed to be relatively bland, so that you can impose your own.
That's the
sort of writing
thing.
over him, but like, I don't like that.
That's the thing. He's not a self-insert for the player compared to something like Ritsuka Fujimaru from Fate Grand Order.
But he feels like one, and that's wrong.
It's because in the anime he has a pretty like purposely bland design.
Yeah.
But his actual characterization in the visual novel tells you exactly how he feels at any given time. There's no, you were the player supposed to project yourself on him and make the choices there. No, this is Shiro's story, and he is just a character you're seeing the perspective of in the visual novel.
Dripping. Also, why does this feel like you know who you are?
So Shiro in the visual novel summed up, and I'm going to try to sum up in like 15 minutes that the visual novel takes like 70 hours to put through. You know his origin story at this point, at least the bare basics.
Yeah.
Caught in the fire caused by the last Holy Grail
Yes.
War, orphaned and saved by an assassin for hire.
Yes.
And at least I think you'd remember the fact that Shiro has some really, really bad survivor's guilt because of all that.
Yes, I do. Sorry, this is the cutest version of him so far. It's my favorite so far. That's from Zero Cafe.
Nah, you're good, you're good.
Sorry, this might be the cutest version of him so far. You keep going.
So, now where the anime doesn't necessarily portray it as is, in the anime, you see Shiro with really one mode, and at least the two anime where you spend the most time following, which is going to be the two TV adaptations, 2006 and UBW.
Mm-hmm.
In those adaptations, your perception of Shiro is probably one where he's a lot more reckless and stupid.
Yes, he is in fact those things.
Except, this is kind of the anime's fault. So I'm going to call to a specific scene in the Fate Stay Night 2006 anime that like strikes me every time I reread that portion of the visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the scene where Rin specifically tells Shiro, hey, we need to work together. Don't wander around alone. Go straight home.
Yeah.
And then he immediately turns around and starts investigating on his own.
Yes.
That just flat out doesn't happen in the visual novel.
Oh, lovely.
In the visual novel, if I remember right, he does start going home. And Shinji's the one that comes and gets him.
Oh. Interesting.
And
Very
unlike
interesting.
the anime, in the anime, by that point, Shiro had already been attacked by Ryder and had kind of heard Shinji, if you remember that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the Fate route in the visual novel. That's only UBW, which he doesn't have this stupid dunce, I'm going to trust Shinji. So in the context of the Fate route, this is Shiro's childhood friend asking him for help.
Okay.
That's one of those areas where the 2006 anime really kind of hurts Shiro.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that's made obvious moving into the UBW route specifically, that the visual novel portrays that the anime doesn't, Shiro's not stupid. He actually does know that he cannot just save everybody. And in the anime, if you really sit down and think about it, his stupidest moments, like where he almost gets attacked by Gil and Gil almost kills him, that's not something he would have done earlier in the route. That's something he only does because Archer spent the better part of that route poking at him,
Yeah.
reopening really old wounds.
Because Archer is a shit stirrer, and we love that for him. Also,
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to notice that.
They're perfect freaks. And there's a straight up moment where Shiro's like, yeah, I know that trying to do this kind of shit would be dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I think my last portrayal that Shiro's not stupid and incompetent and reckless normally is in the Fate route. And this is in the anime, but it's not given as... I don't know if it's given as much focus as it probably should be.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, Shiro actually stops or tries to stop Artoria from doing the I'm just going to run straight into battle thing.
Yeah.
That's a... If you like that in the Fate route, Shiro does not quite do the I'm going to take all the stupidest decisions to get this done as quickly and as blatantly heroically as possible.
Okay.
That's a UBW Archer poking at him sort of deal.
Yeah.
So that's sort of why I wanted to relitigate that, is because the anime really doesn't give you the full focus of Shiro's character.
Fair. I feel like I got more of it from UBW, so at least that's good.
Yeah. Heaven's Feel, I don't think they give you a lot to work with Shiro, just the fact that he's willing to not go straight hero in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the visual novel, the visual novel is a lot more complicated, since at the back end, and this isn't portrayed in the movies very well, you know the part where Shiro is he's kind of dying from using Archer's arm?
Yeah.
It's not at that point that he's just dying.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, his life is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if he didn't sacrifice his body at the end of that anime, his body was still going to collapse on him anyways. Like, that's something Kirei directly tells him.
Yeah.
And the other
Which
thing
you can
is,
kind of tell throughout what he's putting it through.
and that's kind of portrayed in the anime. What's not portrayed in the anime almost at all. Shiro is basically got dementia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's entire parts of the visual novel where you'll be sitting there and suddenly you are in a completely different time and a completely different scene, and the music cuts abruptly to there, where Shiro's just lost like hours upon hours of his life, and he doesn't realize that anything happened there. At some points, people will be in the room that he didn't realize had entered.
Huh.
And this is all from the first person.
Interesting.
So, those are just like some of the wrinkles of Shiro as a character that you just didn't necessarily get with the anime.
No.
But yeah, that said, that was not in my notes because I didn't think I was going to be really getting that. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I have made it down to abilities, if that matters.
But I still got a ways to go.
Okay, I'm just going to chill here then.
So, by the end of Fate Stay Night, he does have 3 different paths that he can go down. Path A, he spends the rest of his life searching for Avalon to reunite with Artoria.
Mm-hmm.
Path B, he studies at the clock tower with Rin and works with her to help people around the world.
So, and like we have, like, that's when like he and Elmoi like cross in the clock tower.
Yes.
Like we've seen that at the end of UBW.
UBW is really the only one of the animes that portrays the afterwards, which isn't in the visual novel very much.
Yeah.
Because
I remember that scene because we were like, look, Elmoi showed up, my boy, it's my boy.
And then there's Path C, where his mortal body collapses, EMIYA transfers his soul into a gem, and then Rin and Sakura shell a not unsubstantial amount of money for a replacement body. The life of a Shiro is not an easy one.
So, chase after a myth and a legend, right? Go back to school in the hopes that your crush will someday love you. I'm making a joke, I realize. They're already together. Or be made into a human fucking puppet. I almost feel bad for him.
And then, obviously, there's the bad future where he contracts with the world and becomes a Counter Guardian servant. So, that's the recap of the Fate Stay Night events over. The rest actually may be spoilers for some people, so spoilers for Adventures of Lord Elmoi past the events we've actually read for the channel so far.
Ironically, I do actually remember what you've explained to me before about him being a Counter Guardian.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we talked about this before. I don't remember if it was for the channel or for something, or just like to explain EMIYA, but like we have actually talked about the whole Counter Guardian thing.
Okita Alter.
Yeah, Okita Alter. Okay, because we definitely brought up EMIYA at the time.
And we talked about EMIYA Assassin, who's also a Counter Guardian, so it could have been one of those you're remembering.
Okay.
So, Adventures, for all intents and purposes, is the current center of our vague canon at the moment in Fate.
Adventures of Elmoi is the one that we've read one book of, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Motorboat modern pirates.
Yes.
Yes.
It outlines what we can kind of interpret as the vaguely canon route for Fate Stay Night for our core timeline, and it remains largely vague to the exact events. What we do know is that Shiro did go with Rin to London, but as of a few years after Fate Stay Night, Shiro and Rin are not dating, or at least it's very complicated.
It's a situationship.
Yeah. He's still in London, though, and has apparently become friends with Flat Escardos, that student from EMIYA, becoming a bit of a headache combination for everyone involved.
Well, to be fair, I think most of EMIYA students are just headache inducers.
Yeah, he's just another one for the pack in some ways.
What's one more?
So Shiro ends up with going to a prestigious casino with Flat and unknowingly plays a very powerful vampire in cards and wins. Thing is, that guy doesn't lose, like, ever. To people who wins, he offers them one wish, which Shiro turns down, unknowingly insulting the vampire, leading to a series of events involving the Mafia. It's here we get an understanding of Shiro's post-Fate Stay Night abilities, which have evolved dramatically.
Just take the damn wish.
I can give you anything you want. There's nothing I really want. Bye. Accidentally insults nobility.
Stupidity is contagious. And I hope I don't catch it from him.
So, post-Fate Stay Night, Shiro is a lot more efficient. Particularly that lack of magical energy problem is supplemented by Rin teaching him how to store mana and gems like she does, except it's instrumental to him being able to use Magecraft for more extended periods of time.
Yeah.
This is how he can manage to use his reality marble, though this takes years of prep to use at once. Or use just once.
Yeah.
He's also capable of tracing more intense noble phantasms, even grasping divine constructs through the recreation, though the recreations are likely even more inferior to the originals than his normal projections are. To my understanding, it's more of a replication of function than copying the weapon like he would normally do.
So it's kind of like the exact opposite of Gilgamesh's treasury. So Gilgamesh owns the prototype of everything. EMIYA can create the effective part of anything and make it work, but not necessarily have it be...
Well, normally EMIYA can recreate an effective copy, like its direct copy of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, let's say, I don't know, pick random holy sword that's not Excalibur, because that one's a little weird.
Erendite,
if that one's holy. So, or a sword made by gods or fairies or something. EMIYA normally in Fate Stay Night would look at it and be like, oh, I can't make that.
Mm-hmm.
But in Adventures, if he knows what the weapon can do, he can recreate the weapon to do something like that.
Yeah. So like I said, it's almost the exact opposite of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, who has the prototype, he can recreate what it does, essentially. A tool that will do what it does, but not the exact item.
But, like, for weapons that aren't created by the gods, like something like Rule Breaker with Medea, or even, like, I think even Guy Bolg is doable by him. Mm-hmm. He can just recreate it. Like, it's basically that, just maybe not as durable.
Hey. Fan artist. Art of EMIYA with Guy Bolg. Where? When? Send to me right now.
I'll clarify.
You have 10 minutes.
I will clarify that I haven't read these volumes yet. You can tell because it would be on the channel by now if I had. And the lore has been...
It's coming up.
Yeah, we have to wait till the second and third volumes are translated, though. We're still waiting on volume 3 right now. And the lore may be expanded upon a little bit later than I understand. Mm-hmm. Another thing he can do is he can also use his Broken Phantasm abilities to shatter a noble phantasm and transfer its properties to other swords within his reality marble. Mm-hmm. The big final change from what we've seen in Fate Stay Night is that he's capable of making his projections at a high enough quality that they can even be lent out and consistently used by other people.
So not quantity over quality anymore, as Muramasa was complaining about.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
So, I've got another Shiro EMIYA to go over here. Just because the fan base...
This one?
Yeah. This is Shiro EMIYA from Fate Kelly's Liner.
This looks like the most emo-ass punk boy.
So, fun fact, there's actually 2 new Shiro EMIYAs. I'm just not opening the page for the other one. You can kind of see it there, Ilya's World versus Miyu's World. The first one is fairly inconsequential. Basically, what we know of him is that it's a timeline where the EMIYAs are a stable family with a 2-parent household. Shiro's still adopted for some reason.
I remember
and
this.
Lives his life normally, being simped on by every woman within a 50-mile radius of him, as per usual.
Ladies.
You can do better.
Yeah. Ladies, there are ladies, not to be that person, but the priest exists.
That is significantly worse.
Not aesthetically. I'm not talking morally. I'm not talking ethically. Aesthetically, not a downgrade.
So this is the other more...
You can't tell me that Mapo Tofu Man isn't more attractive than that. At least in terms of just sheer looks.
I'm not going to comment. So the other more consequential Shiro is the one from a parallel universe which becomes important in later seasons of the show and the third part of the manga. He is also orphaned and adopted by Kiritsugu, but in a world that's dying. The two have no connections to the Ainsburns in this timeline, and instead travel around the world in search of a miracle child. They find and adopt that child, but Kiritsugu dies before any of their plans to use her to save the world can occur.
Okay.
Shit goes down, a Holy Grail war begins over her, where no servants are summoned, but instead the participants receive class cards.
Yep.
That allow them to use the power of the servants. You are familiar with that
Something
now.
I am now incredibly familiar with, because we are currently playing through
a chapter where I've incorporated that as a mechanic.
Which is why Herc Eichling is now a thing.
Yeah.
Which is, unfortunately, game-breaking.
I built mechanics to make it not game-breaking. I'm just letting you have some fun with it right now.
Yeah. But, like, the original idea, and as it is carried out in my character currently, game-breaking. Like, with no mechanics to limit this, destructive.
Limiting mechanics have always existed. I'm just not enforcing it in this first chapter because I want you guys to have your fun and play with it. But, yeah. The cards allow them to use the power of the servants. The Shiro wasn't actually participating in that war.
Mm-hmm.
And the people participating actually tried to take him out because he was kind of emotionally involved and was a liability to get involved.
Yeah, I guess emotional involvement is probably not the smartest thing.
So they tried to have him killed, and he is supplied with a fake class card.
Yeah.
But instead of being killed, he manages to draw the power of his servant self through it, which he then proceeds to use to single-handedly solo the war, beating 6 out of the 7 participants.
And who were the other installs?
We don't get a lot of detail on them, but they're various mages installed with the Fate Stay Night cards mostly.
Okay. I was gonna say, because, like, also, what a mindfuck to, like, somehow channel the power of yourself as a future servant. Like, I don't know if he was aware of that when he was doing it. He probably wasn't.
He became aware.
Because I'm gonna say that is a mindfuck. That would set me back decades.
Only defeated after he already made his wish using the 7 class, because he had 7.
Yeah.
Lacking the power, so he didn't have his own power by then, but the last person still had their class card, and that class card was the actual archer of that Holy Grail War. You want to take a guess?
Is it?
It's Gilgamesh.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, because Gilgamesh is an archer. He's also a caster, but he's an archer in how you first meet him.
So, a notable difference between him and normal Shiro is that his Unlimited Blade Works is not the same barren wasteland. Instead, within the reality marble, it's this, like, snowy field with a constant blizzard while it's open. Still the swords everywhere, but that's what it is.
Why is it a snowy...
Just a difference in, like, the core of their being.
Okay.
As well, thanks to using Archer's card for a prolonged period of time, he seems to have exceptional control over the reality marble. You know the anecdote about Leonidas in the 300 having the sky blacked out with arrows coming at them?
Yes.
He basically pulls that off with swords that he draws from within the reality marble.
You gotta admit, that's pretty fucking metal.
That particular moment always sticks in my mind because when I watched it with my brother, who is not Shiro's biggest fan, mind you, his reaction was simply, Jesus fucking Christ, Shiro.
Look, say what you will, that's pretty fucking metal, right? It's just like, their arrows blot out the sun, then we will luckily fight in the shade. We have no worries of the sun blinding us. What the fuck?
I don't know if you've scrolled down yet. There might actually be some art here because this is a manga and anime at this point.
Oh, okay. I did not scroll down here because I was not sure if this was something, depressing. There is, in fact, art. Ah, the white hair.
You can see it starting to form.
Yeah.
There. And you can see, like, here his skin is darkening, but that's very clearly a much more, like, that's almost an injury darkening.
Yeah, like a burn scar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Creepy. What the fuck?
That's Shinji fused with a Hassan.
Thanks, that's nightmare fuel. I'm gonna have nightmares about that. Ugh. Disgusting. Ugh. Damn, what fucking art of... Is that Mordred? Or
No, that's the person who has
is that the Gilgamesh
installed.
install?
Yeah, that's Angelica. I think I've shown you Angelica in the Gilgamesh video.
Damn, that looks so good. I don't remember that, but that looks so good. Aye. That is Herc's sword. Fuck off. Okay. Oi. That's not a sword.
That's a gun.
That's a
family
machine
heirloom,
gun.
one might say.
I was like, that's not a sword. Oh, rule breaker. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it just keeps going. Oh, the class cards. Magical girl transformation scene? I'm not gonna. I'll be honest, I just want to see him blot out the sun, you know?
We'll see if that's in here.
Yeah.
They are showing the animatics of some of these fights. So.
They are. Ah, Gilgamesh. He looks beat up. Gilgamesh also be pulling out. Oh, there we go. Is that it? Probably.
That's like past the scene, but you see like that's the end result of that scene.
Yeah, okay. Impressive. That looks like a Minecraft sword. It's the... I can't. Okay. Let go. Alright.
So yeah. It's now time for EMIYA Archer.
Should I close these two?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
As if I don't know what EMIYA Archer looks like. Motherfucker looks like the edgiest fucking... It's literally holding Kalad Bolg. Oh, he has not had a sprite update.
Actually, he has. It was just one of the earliest sprite updates.
I was gonna say, because that looks like the old sprite proportions, not the new ones.
I got an even older sprite, which you're going to get to see today.
Ugh. I'm not sure I like that. Okay.
So...
Jesus.
Yeah. Finally, servants again.
Christ.
This version of Archer is the one we're all familiar with thanks to the anime. But it might be helpful to clarify what his exact history is.
God, he's such a fucking housewife. Talents fiddling with junk housework, likes housework. God.
So...
Get wife up a Shiro for yourself.
This version of Archer is not our current Shiro. Our current Shiro will never become him, as described by Nasu. Mm-hmm. This is a Shiro that went through the events of the Fate route, but got rejected by Artoria, who never found her own peace within the fall after the fall of Camelot. Mm-hmm. That Shiro seems to go on to deal with magical threats, as well as get involved with international conflicts.
Yes.
Eventually, it's too much for him, and he is forced to make a deal with the world to become a counter guardian, going on to basically become a timeline assassin, often killing everyone involved, with a lot of collateral damage, breaking him down and leading him to the events of Fate's Day Night. Mm-hmm. Hilariously, there are implications that his red coat was a gift to him from CL from the Tsukuhime series, who is somehow still alive here and still a member of the church.
Huh.
Within Chaldea, he takes up the role as one of the resident parents for children servants and, of course, head chef in Chaldea's kitchen. He has become known as one of the mothers of Chaldea, right next to Tiamat and Raiko.
I'm trying to figure out how to mommy Shiro. But, like, the name, it's not like Tia Mommy, right? You know, Tia Mommy works so well, right?
Shiro EMIYA? No.
Mamiya.
Mommy.
Mamiya. It's Mamiya. Kind of like Mamiya, but Mamiya. Jesus fucking Christ. Once again, get you a Shiro wife. This should be the goal of anyone in FGO. Just get you a Shiro wife.
Put it this way, like, you can say all you want about the physical nature of Shiro versus Kirei. You probably want this over Kirei as a husband.
Yeah, because he cooks. Bruh, the way that, look, women want very few things in life, right? And if you have the option, like, the men, I should give my girlfriend flowers. No. You know that money you spend on flowers? Buy her 2 loaves of garlic bread. She's gonna love you a lot more for 2 loaves of fucking garlic bread. Get you a man who can cook like Shiro. Just look at... I'm not going to touch the Grand Order art, but it's like the other stuff.
We'll be back to all the Grand Order art.
Yeah, I just like stuff like in the Ace volumes where I'm like, will that be in the... Because I don't know if like this stuff is going to be...
It won't be.
Okay.
There's a lot more art of EMIYA just because he is classic Fate Stay Night.
Cool. I'll work my way back up towards
the FGO stuff?
Yeah. Well, some pretty cool art of him. What the fuck? I don't want to know. I see him. I see him up there. They both look so done with this. Like, they both look like they want to be anywhere else. Oh, Jesus.
You good?
Yeah, something walked over my grave. Ugh. Someday my commentary on getting you an FGO waifu is gonna come back to bite me in the butt. I love that she's got the little Herc plushie, like the one berserker eye. That's adorable. I technically saw that in his other page as well. Okay, I just wanna... Alright, so from here down. So 5 more things. Oh. See, I like this one because you know who that is?
That's cool.
That's my coup, baby! 6th coup when? Did you see my beautiful coup team?
It's a perfect Suicide Squad.
I would like to call it my cockroach squad. Because I would really like to see how long it could last if I had them all leveled. Anyways. Relationships?
Yup.
Okay. Oh, so these are not lines. These are just descriptions, which is fine. I read through them really quickly, but I'm not going to read them out loud. His relationship with Kukulin is funny. Okay, I do have lines for these. I can't believe it. I always thought Misfortune was her shadow, but I never thought she'd be possessed by a goddess. They must have really connected on some level, huh? Must be the stubbornness. I've noticed recently that we are going through our food supplies faster than usual. I know why, but there was nothing I could do to stop it. Would you do me a favor and tell Jaguar Man that she can have seconds, but not thirds or fourths? Not bad. He hammered on countless billets aspiring to create the one weapon that would transcend all. One of the greatest artisans of all time, a man who divided the country in half, ultimately created an ideal of his own. That story stings a bit. Okay. Master, this version of me didn't experience any of that, but I have all the information on it. It was a dreamlike adventure full of perils and laughter. I can see where your newfound boldness comes from. Unbelievable. I did tell you that boys should seek the wilderness. Seems like you really did run as far as your legs could take you. Excuse me, I got a light headache. I didn't mean to facepalm. My mental training is still lacking. Yes, this is about the woman shamelessly calling herself the Master of the Moon. Here I was expecting her to appear wearing something more tame, and what do I get? A Gakuran-style uniform. I should have known better. Still, that Greenhorn Master has grown a lot bolder. Braver is a nicer word than bolder, you say? No, that doesn't work. She was already this brave back then. And then, obviously, the best entrance. Okay. This is all stuff from the animes, so I'm not super concerned about it.
I almost brought up EMIYA's attacks from Tiger Coliseum, but I just couldn't find it individually, and the collection of it is far more than we have the scope of covering today.
Valid. Coup! It's coup!
Yeah, it is cool.
Why does he look like he's wearing a Lucha Libre mask?
It's an April Fool's art. Also, I'm pretty sure it's Santa. He put on a mask and adopted a really not so subtle secret identity to trick some of the child servants, so he could try to help them while making them feel a sense of accomplishment.
Aww! Wait, actually, that's
he
so
actually
sweet.
teamed up with Amakusa Shiro to do that.
Wait, actually, that's so sweet. What the fuck?
Yeah, the two Shiros were involved in that one.
Aww. These are out-of-universe stuff, it says.
Yeah. Honestly, if we had only waited like a few months, there'd be some Honkai Star Rail EMIYA animations to show you, too.
Oh, is that a thing now?
Yeah, there's a crossover with Unlimited Blade Works and Star Rail, and EMIYA's probably going to be one of the servants.
Nice. Okay.
I'll show you that in updates when it next year.
Abilities.
So, EMIYA can actually be summoned into a variety of classes, including Caster, Berserker, and Assassin. We only ever see the Archer one present. He's considered to be statistically a weak servant, but he's held up by his primarily by his abilities, namely his developed battle instincts and the signature Shiro tracing and projecting. His coat is actually a holy shroud that protects him from environmental hazards. Meanwhile, his sword protections and bow usage make him capable of a great balance of melee and ranged combat. He also has the ability to modify or even detonate his weapons, leading him to be a remarkably versatile servant.
Pull the pin on the grenade. Okay. I've seen how he works, so he's not... For me, it's not as much of like a question. Alright.
So, Noble Phantasms. He has a lot to go over here.
Yeah.
Mostly because he projects the Noble Phantasms of other servants. And the list will continue to grow near indefinitely, with no doubt more than we see here.
So I'm assuming Kansho and Bakuya is the Gongjiang and Mo Yue swords.
Yes. Those twin swords are swords from, Gongjiang and Mo Yue. EMIYA encountered them at some point in his life, and they became his favorite weapons to use in a fight.
Oh, are those the two twin swords? The ones you have.
Yeah.
You should have brought them.
I should have. I didn't think about it. I should have.
How disappointing.
Honestly, I should have worn my Shiro shirt.
Yeah, you really should have. You should come in full cosplay. We could have gotten you a wig.
Nah, the jeans would have been too hot today. It was way too warm. I actually changed out of jeans and into shorts.
I wore jeans today.
So
trying to cram those 3 fucking boxes from IKEA into my mom's clown car.
So these two swords possess an inherent attraction to each other that draws them together. This allows EMIYA to pull off many thrown maneuvers, and he also tends to extend them by modifying them with his trace abilities.
Yep. Seen that.
You've seen those.
Yep.
That's actually an anime original power set that was so popular and visually striking, they incorporated it into basically all future depictions of him.
To be fair, he does have some really cool fucking anime fights. As you can see, that one that's going on down there is a personal favorite of mine because...
Cool.
It's cool.
Another weapon he has is Fronting. You'll remember Fronting from the Beowulf video.
Yep.
EMIYA use it as a powerful sword that he primarily just puts into his bow as an arrow. It just explodes it. Same with Cowlitbolg 2, which is more common of an arrow for him to use. Cowlitbolg. But unlike Fronting, it's not just straight power. This one's modified to be more aerodynamic compared to the original Cowlitbolg.
Then roll Aias.
This is a shield used by Aias or Ajax.
Yep. The shield that he carried the bodies on away from the battlefield.
Yep. During the war itself, it was a literal bronze shield, but EMIYA manages to... Because EMIYA is good with swords, not shields, he grabs the conceptual weapon part of the shield, and through using the shield's abilities, creates that flower, as opposed to the shield itself.
Captain America. So what I'm saying is we were robbed of seeing him Captain America his way through a fight using an actual shield.
Look, let's get FGO's story finished, and then we can have more shielders, and then we can have, like, actual Ajax or IS.
Okay, and then obviously Excalibur.
So I have a little bit more on Row IS. So
okay.
The way it works, it actually creates 7 flower petals of defense that will guard against attacks. Those petals are actually based off the flowers that grew where IS died. And EMIYA, not being a master of making shields, is very inefficient about it, meaning that the destruction of that shield can often cause him recoil and physical damage. Excalibur. EMIYA actually can make Excalibur. It's often misunderstood that he can't, but no, time and time again it's shown that he can do it, though his method of doing it is very limited. The first method he can do it with is how I presume that Shiro eventually makes Divine Constructs, which is just make a sword that looks and acts similarly on the surface, only borrowing the original's name and power. Alternatively, he can make a near-perfect recreation of this, but doing so would kill him after a single use.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm entranced by that Kukul and EMIYA fight gif that's just been on repeat. Because here's the thing. When I first watched 2006, and when I watched Blade Works, there is no denying that EMIYA is objectively attractive. This is an objectively attractive anime man. He has a lovely physique, wonderful color palette, looks fantastic. And he has a funny fucking personality, especially in Unlimited Blade Works. He's a shit stirrer.
Eventually, I need to show you Unlimited Blade Works Abridged. It's like the best depiction of Shiro and EMIYA, to the point where I actually the official FGO localization directly referenced some of Shiro's lines in it, giving them to EMIYA. And B, when I think of EMIYA's English voice, I don't think of the official English dub. I think of the fucking abridged voice nowadays.
You'll have to show it to me. But, like, objectively, this is peak attractiveness in a GIF on screen, is the two of them just duking it out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm just gonna scroll past so I kinda, remove myself from... God damn it, no. Do not make me watch this man using a bow and arrow.
So I'll now note his other noble phantasm, which is the Unlimited Blade Works. There's a spell that brings forth his Reality Marble. Within the Reality Marble...
If you could please recite the entire chant for me.
I am the bone of my sword, steel is my body, and fire is my blood. I have created over 1,000 weapons, unknown to death, nor known to life. Have withstood pain of creating many weapons, yet these hands will never know anything. So, as I pray, Unlimited Blade Works. You want to see something even better? Hang on.
Oh, no.
Let me drag this forward.
What do you need me to look up?
Look up, what's Magneto's actor's name? Is it Ian McKellen?
Yeah? No? Yes? Magneto actor.
Look up EMIYA.
EMIYA. Make my life easier.
Nope.
Damn it. Well, because I'm trying to think.
It is Ian McKellen.
It is? Okay. Alright.
You ever want to see a man more done with the most done with life and weed bullshit?
Sword, steel is my body, fire is my
You'll have to
blood.
cut this interview, by
I
the way.
have created over 1,000 blades. Unknown
What?
to death. Not known to life. Have withstood pain to create many weapons, yet those hands will never hold anything. So as I pray, Unlimited Blade Works.
Why do I have to cut that?
Because that was actual anime track playing in the background.
Oh, damn. I'll try to find I'll just try to mute it in some way so we can still. Anyways, okay.
I thought you'd find that kind of amusing. Because that man did not want to be there.
I think it was funny, though.
So,
Ian McKellen has done some of the funniest things I've ever seen.
So within his Reality Marble is every sword EMIYA has ever seen in his life. His mind can naturally understand the sword and recreate it here.
I remember this makes it a bitch to use in the D&D campaign.
You don't have to record every sword you see.
No, but it not for me, but it's very annoying. Him and Lancelot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you have to like custom go in and add them based off specifications. And
It's not
skill.
annoying for me. It's annoying when we sit down to play and someone else, not naming names, in our campaign has not bothered to do any of that, but then says, I want to use this. And then you have to spend 20 minutes adding it.
What you do is either you ask me to add it in before or after the campaign session, based off of a servant you have, or something you fought. You just take note that he saw it.
Yeah.
You don't ask me to add it mid-fight unless you want to create a really awesome moment, which doesn't normally happen.
Yeah, not naming names. No blame going out here.
So his projections are in reality just him drawing the swords he stored in UBW out. Mm-hmm. Within the reality marble, he'll actually be healed over time and has his projection cost in mana reduced to practically 0. And he can call on the weapons directly within the reality marble, even capable of levitating and throwing them around.
So there's this thing that happens in the Bleach series, right? And this is one of those where I'm like, the chicken and the egg, are these related, or is this just a strange coincidence, right? But in the Bleach anime, you know how they have to unlock their, like, Shikai and Bankai, right? Like,
yes.
the versions of their sword. And one of the things about it is that Ichigo, our main character, right, who is redheaded, right, which I think is interesting to note, is he's redheaded. He's put through this, like, insane training, right? Like, this 2-3 day training to unlock his Bankai, right? Mm-hmm. And in it, he goes into his inner world, or it's projected around him, right? His inner world is projected around him, and there are thousands of different swords, and he has to find and figure out how to use his Bankai out of these thousands of swords that are scattered around that can be picked up and used, but are not his exact sword.
So I've heard the comparison between Noble Phantasms and Bankai before, actually.
Well, here's
and I
the
know
thing.
Bleach does predate Fate, so it's very possible that this was an inspiration for Fate.
I'm not necessarily comparing Noble Phantasm and Bankai, though. I actually can see that now, but I actually just meant that specific situation where reality is projected around him to mirror this inner world with thousands of swords.
That said, it's hilarious to see that lineage, because you know it's explicitly what Noble Phantasms, especially Unlimited Blade Works, have very explicitly inspired in the modern anime scene.
Yeah.
Various abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh. See, because I want to say... Okay, so yeah, look. You see what I mean?
Yeah. I have no doubt that was a direct reference.
Like, this feels very... Yeah. Anyways, just thought that was a fun little side note. Okay. Black and Form? Irrelevant?
It's mostly irrelevant.
Okay.
You remember in First Order they had like Saber Altar, and like because they did the altar routes for how they were portraying the servants, they're not the shadow servants from the game. They had to put EMIYA in as an altar somehow, but EMIYA in theory as a servant is not able to have an altar form according to the original lore. They may have backtracked on that a little bit, but that's at the time that was the understood lore.
Okay. Am I going to need this page again?
No.
Okay. NPs.
So this is his original launch of FGO, changed very quickly because it was bugged and bad. I actually don't mind the animation. It's just the sprite.
Oh boy. So here's the thing. With the old sprites, they had this way of just making all of the characters look like children, right? Like it was something about the way that the characters were drawn in this like sprite chibi was that they all just kind of look like children. And it makes me uncomfy.
That is the original NP. It was very quickly animation updating. He is one of the first major animation updates, which is why he looks a little bit more like our modern old servants.
Hey, look, my favorite song.
Let's not click it and get copyrighted.
Damn. Okay. But his proportions are still a little off from, like, I think the most recent servants.
Put it this way, FGO NA launched with this sprite.
Okay, that makes sense. I was going to say, because it's still just a little off from what I would think of.
There's a lot that FGO NA launched that JP didn't have, because in JP it was just so bad they didn't want to wait for it in NA, like EMIYA's sprite animation.
I would like to also make the comment that, like, I will continue making the joke, oh look, an archer who arches, and it's entirely because of him. This is his fault. Because the first archer we got in a major anime project was this shit. You know? Oh, you know what this reminds me of a little bit when he does stuff like that? Do you remember in the Battle for Fairy Tail when Urza summoned hundreds of swords with her sword goddess costume?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me of that a little bit.
I will say, I brought up that Fate was probably inspired by Bleach. If there is inspiration there, it's Fairy Tail to Fate.
No, Fairy Tail is later.
Yeah.
Alright.
And then we have an arcade.
Yay.
The saving grace for a lot of old servers.
Yeah. You don't get a nice new sprite, but you do get an arcade, and that's worth something. Oh, he stands so sassy.
Hand on the hip.
Hand on the hip, hip cocked, slightly twisted. Stands so sassy. That is the stance of a house husband.
I am the bone of my soul. So, as I pray, unlimited blade walks.
That's actually really fucking cool.
It grows on you, doesn't it?
Bro, this is so fucking... The whole character is growing on me. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I've gone from, like, EMIYA to, like, EMIYA.
So, like all Fate Stay Night servers, and you saw this a little bit, we have the class card going on. So, yeah. There's other characters that use it, too, occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the EMIYA, like, that they fought looked like.
Okay, alright.
So, he's got a bit of a different design than normal, as we do get to see what he looks like in this world. And obviously we have the installed version with Shiro. I'm going to very briefly mention another character who has this card installed, technically.
Mm-hmm.
The EMIYA class card's actually a bit short-lived for the original series. He doesn't stick around as usable for very long, as it ends up permanently with another character named Chloe,
Mm-hmm.
or Kuro, depending on the translation, who is a main character of Prisma Ilya. We'll cover her in a future video in more detail, because it's a bit hard to go into her without the context we need from the Ilya video. But I wanted to mention her here.
Okay. No name?
Yeah, so, meet no name or nameless, depending on your translation.
Okay.
Your first reaction is, that's just Archer. And you are right. That's just Archer.
Is it CCC Archer?
Yes. It's the... this is...
Do you see the problem here?
Yeah, I see the problem. This is actually one of his least popular designs, by the way.
I will single-handedly change that. I will fight tooth and nail for my long white-haired men.
So this is Fate Extra's version of EMIYA. This version of him has a completely different character history. Instead of contracting with the Counterforce, he contracts with the Moon Cell. And he's not a Counter Guardian, but rather he's a stand-in for nameless heroes throughout history. Thus he goes by Nameless or No Name.
Well, I have to play Extella Link now, by the way, just because I need to see that. Up close and personal.
Though this is still absolutely just Shiro. His life was a little bit harsher than Shiro's, though. By the nature of the world of Fate Extra, that world's just a lot less stable. So he ended up in a lot more disastrous situations. In his activities, he ended up being betrayed by his closest friend and turned into the government because his closest friend thought he'd gone too far and was willing to take out even his loved ones to protect the public.
Oof, that's harsh, bro.
So he was turned into the court systems, was found guilty of the crimes he committed in the name of justice, and sentenced to execution.
That's harsh. That really went from, like, all covered up.
Look, CCC in the Fate Extra series is very horny, and that doesn't go one way.
You know what? I appreciate that.
Remember, this is AOU cast off.
This is a UO cast-off Gil, yes.
That's right.
That is... Oh, we love a good suit. This is peak male form. This is peak male form. Even better. It only is getting better. Well, that doesn't look great. Oh, he's so cute. And he still has the long hair. Valid. Hi, Duo.
Hi, Duo.
It's just vetting before I click into anything else. Ooh, white. Cute. Peek. Not the holding on to the cloak. I do that at school sometimes when I'm like trying to, like in the crowd of people. I'll just reach out to my friends' backpacks and just be like, okay. Alright. I got through the art.
So, Nameless's abilities are largely the exact same as Archer's, right down to his Noble Phantasm, and he's even still an Archer class servant. On a practical level, there's very little difference.
Respectfully? What the fuck is that as your chair? Get a better chair. No! Get a better chair! This is unacceptable.
Nameless does have access to another form called the Mythological Origin. This form taps into the human genome to increase Nameless's powers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's just the horny art that all the protagonist servants have.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact. A while back, I started reading FGO Dojins.
Mm-hmm.
EMIYA X Kukulkan is really popular.
Thank you for that bite of information.
You know, I just feel like you need to be a well-rounded Fate fan and individual, and this is important information to know. Oh, he looks so melancholic. Oh. Because that's both male and female. Oh, lovely. Oh. Nice. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the other armor we saw, which looks really cool. Is there anything else I should be...
No, we do have a bunch of NPs though.
Ah, glorious. I'm gonna know this by the end of this video. Respectfully though, the mismatch of like two lines layering over one another plus not matching the words written on screen is kind of a nightmare. Like, that's nightmarish. Kiritazo.
Oh, that's just moving into other Noble Phantasms. You can.
Okay.
We've seen this before. This is CCC's EMIYA's all of his skills.
Okay. And you'll tell me if there's something I'll have to cut out eventually.
This, yeah, we'll get to that later.
Oh man, this is...
It's a little bit of a low quality video.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is... Oh,
this is the
hello,
video's fault, though, not the game's.
pixels. Is that...
That's going.
Okay, I couldn't tell. I feel like the black t-shirt and jeans with glasses is just such a weird costume because the neckline of that shirt is so low. It doesn't feel real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lady's shirt. That's a woman's shirt. That is not a man's shirt. That is a lady's blouse. I fully believe that. For what reason does it need to be like here?
To show off more of his barrel chest.
I feel like his cleavage is obvious enough without it. I almost want to cover him up. Sometimes it's sexy to leave a little bit to the imagination, you know? I mean, the Speedo was shocking enough. Please tell me he doesn't fight in the Speedo. That was the wrong question to ask, Chad.
Here's the answer to your question.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
You can unlock swimsuits for all your servants.
Right, okay. Alright. Next one?
There's probably an MP animation at the very end.
There? Oh, there is, okay. Alright. Oh, poor Gwen. Wait. Sorry. No, keep going. Beautiful. That is just Excalibur. Fate Extella Link NP means long hair NP, right?
Possibly. I don't know if they fucked around with it or not.
I hope so.
So this is the original Extella. So this is Umbral Star. This is not long-haired EMIYA.
Okay. Do I have to cut this?
This one you shouldn't have to cut.
Okay, it is the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Damn, the quality increase. Insane. Wait, weren't you playing this?
Yes, this is the game I'm playing on the
Yeah.
channel right now, though it might be over by the time this video goes out.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I recognize the... Oh yeah, it looks so much better when you're not streaming it. Your computer just does not like this for streaming.
You haven't joined me since Vorn largely fixed the problem.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
What was it?
They were plugged into the wrong ports, the HDMI cables.
Ah, okay. I was gonna say, because this is much better. So did they get someone new to record this every single time, or is it just the same recording?
It's the same voice actor, new recording.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Look, the guy bowled.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good for him. Okay.
This is the one you'll have to cut.
Yeah, that's fine. Please. Please be long-haired. Come on, come on, come on. Yes! I'll cut it there. Oh. Oh! Beautiful. Beautiful. God, this game looks like something that would give me anxiety. So much anxiety. Because I would want to kill everything, but I know that's not possible.
No.
But, like, in my heart, I would want everything dead before I would feel secure to move on from an area. Beautiful. Stunning. Perfection. Guybulg! See, this is even better. He's using his boyfriend's weapon.
Hey, look, he did the raining, the
Yeah!
sky filled with arrows thing here.
We love it. We love it.
This is just because I felt like it, because I thought it'd be funny.
Does it need to be cut?
No.
Okay.
Actually, this will be. Actually, no, this won't be. Because this is the phone port. I doubt they have copyright protections good enough to catch this.
Oh, there's a phone port of this game?
In Japan. It's not very
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. The chibi's adorable, though. It does look pretty shitty, though. It's adorable, but it's shitty, you know?
good. The chibi's not for the phone port. There is full-size models. This is just a costume in the game for Extella Link.
You know what? That's so valid.
I just thought you'd find the chibi amusing.
I love him using his boyfriend's spear. The dojins don't lie, Knick-Knack. Ah, yeah, fuck Altera.
Alright, so next is for the unreleased extra record. We've got EMIYA's Noble Phantasm animation, actually.
Oh, nice.
I am the bone of my soul. Steel is my body, and fire is my blood.
I'm gonna know this by heart by the end of this
Created
video.
Over 1,000 blades, unknown to death, unknown to life. Hell is to pay to create many weapons.
You know, the voice actor's gotten better at pronouncing the English over the years.
Will never hold anything. So, as I pray, unlimited later walks. Master.
That's pretty cool.
I gotta say, so with the English voice actor part of all that, or the Japanese voice actor speaking English, I actually kind of like this touch that the visual novel and anime both do. That is not supposed to be something that EMIYA should be doing. It's very unnatural for EMIYA to be using his reality marble. So when Archer EMIYA is doing it, he says it in English because it's just, it doesn't mean that much to him anymore. But when Shiro does it, he says it in full Japanese.
Oh.
So it's like him like more naturally being able to do it.
Interesting. Okay. EMIYA Alter?
Yep. Here we go.
Oh. Okay. That's different. Is this a different person altogether?
No.
It's the same person.
This is still Shiro.
How the fuck is this Shiro? And why does it look like he's a living representation of Kintsugi?
It's just...
I'm not wrong. That does look like Kintsugi,
a
right?
little bit.
Okay. Gun swords. Alright.
So, meet Archer EMIYA Alter, aka one of FGO's signature controversies. Let's go at this purely from a lore angle for now. Just, we'll come back to the elephant in the room here. So, first off, the skin. This is an extension of why Shiro suddenly gets darker skin as normal Archer. His overuse of his magic circuits and extensive time in the Middle East ultimately causes his skin to become a tan. In this timeline that he's from, EMIYA Alter has pushed himself even further, leading to his skin darkening even more. I'm gonna leave it there for now. Yeah, we'll get there.
I was gonna say, I've got some commentary on that, but okay.
This version of EMIYA is one pushed beyond the breaking point. The common fan theory is that this is an EMIYA from a Heaven's Feel-like route, where he throws away everything to cleanly and quickly solve the Sakura eating people issue. That speculation, though, what's known is that he flew wholly solo in his life and eventually came up against Kiara and her cult, single-handedly executing all of them, which unfortunately included a grieving Taiga who fled to the cult sometime after the Fate Stay Night events of that time.
Not Taiga.
Yeah. So EMIYA Alter bears a deep grudge against Kiara as a result of that, which is one of the few things he actually keeps with him. EMIYA Alter is unfortunately not far off from... Do you remember I mentioned Shiro being kind of dementia-ridden?
Yeah.
He's not far off from that Heaven's Feel Shiro, where he has trouble maintaining memories. The result is a man who lets himself have very little of his own person. It's openly acknowledged that as a result of becoming a walking weapon, should Shiro ever get his memories back, he'd probably end his own life out of sheer disgust at what he's become. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room here. The design is very problematic when considering discussions of colorism in media.
Yeah, tanning exists.
That's not
tanning.
If you want to talk further in that subject, you can. But I'm not fully done here on the problematic elements.
I just think that this is an interesting contribution to Asian
Just you wait.
Asian fetishization of African American culture.
His artist described the concept as an EMIYA as if he went to prison. And in his original event, he was given the nickname Detroit EMIYA or Demia by Tomomo Cat. Yeah, this character, whether you like it or not, is remarkably problematic. But that's not the end of where the controversies start and go. Though this time we're going to swing in the complete opposite direction, because a few months after his release, FGO-NA launches. Predictably, this servant's reception in the West was going to come under some scrutiny. Much deserved scrutiny. So FGO had one of its major localization controversies. Their solution to this? Step 1. Before release, lighten EMIYA Alter's skin to bring it in more in line with the original Shiro. You'll notice he had 6 card art, or double the card arts and double the sprites. Half of those sprites were the NA sprites, and you'll notice they have much closer to the normal Shiro tanning as opposed to the original, which is just... Step 2. Change that Detroit EMIYA line, now calling him EMIYA. Step 3. Very few pieces of art of this version of EMIYA are released later, and future JP depictions in, say, the manga, automatically adopt the lighter skin tone.
Oh, that's a big difference.
This is where things get complicated even more. The changes are implemented in the fanbase splits. On one hand, yeah, this character is very problematic, with explicit links to Western culture being called out in the source material.
Yeah, like the direct association of darker skin tone with people who have been to prison and with presumably the ghetto cultures of Detroit and the more gang-related cultures, obviously, is not... I can't even say that's not a great portrayal, that's a downright shit portrayal of an entire ethnicity of people that makes up, honestly, a huge percentage of our population across the entire country, where Detroit is a single city, and that is not even the entire truth.
So on one hand, there's really no avoiding this controversy without making those changes. And on the other hand, this becomes a pretty open and political censoring of a piece of Japanese art in a time when the internet is growing increasingly sensitive to changes being made in the localization process. I'm sure our comments are going to be perfectly civil about the reopening of this wound, but Sekhie, if you have anything to say, go ahead and say it. As an aside, editor Sekhie, if anything said so far or that you will say you think needs to be demonetized, please do us a favor, like as a channel, and just cut this portion of the video and link it in the description, because sorry, I don't want our EMIYA video of all videos to be demonetized.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry.
Yeah, I think the darker skin tone to start with, right? And the artist specifically stating this is inspired by EMIYA, who has gone to prison, and Detroit, right, was associated with him. That's pretty explicitly making the direct statement that people with darker skin tone go to prison, right? And that they are from ghetto, controversial, and gangster areas. I mean, the only way he could have made that worse is if he said it was like Gangland, LA, right? Like genuinely.
Well,
the only thing worse would have been like a straight out of Compton reference.
EMIYA Alter's original release chapter was Shinjuku, which was basically like Yakuza versus other
organized crime. Yeah. Because the thing is, if this was like an entirely separate character who had taken the same route as EMIYA, okay. But that is... The thing is, it's also not just the skin color, right? Because think about the way that African Americans are represented in animated media. The hair, right, fits as well, right? So does the bleaching of the hair and the way that there are symbols carved into the side of it. And if you look at his facial features, his mouth is over-exaggerated in a way that is typical of caricatures or portrayals of African American people in animated media, right? So it's
doesn't help that he's also rocking the guns.
Yeah, it doesn't help that he is explicitly gun EMIYA, essentially.
But you'll notice in some of this other art, they are adopting, and this is not even stuff released in the West, they're adopting the lighter skin and the more EMIYA, like original EMIYA.
Yeah.
Which, that does tell you, they're aware now that this was a problem.
Yeah, I think... Jesus fucking Christ.
Sorry, gotta keep you on your toes.
Obviously, this is horrific, right? Like, for all that I made comments about, like, sort of immediately seeing Tezcatlipoca and having these thoughts because of my education and the way that we talk about these kind of things, even if the artist had no intention of that, I can't say that here. The artist, directly made statements
I'll
that
say this.
make that link. Even if the artist didn't mean it in a negative way, the artist made that link. And the thing is, maybe that's not as big of a controversy to the Japanese audience, but for a game that has an NA server and is so big on the NA server, keep in mind racial violence and tension in the US has been an ongoing problem, especially when talking about stereotyping skin colors and judging people based on their skin colors since 17 whatever. I don't fucking know the number. I didn't 1764? Yeah, I don't know. But like especially now with the last 15 years in the US and racial violence and the response of police and like the re-examination of like percentages of populations and the sort of like, it's almost like determinism of like certain parts of like growing up. Like if you grow up in a place like this, it is harder to get access to good schools, it's harder to get access to other stuff, and because it's harder to access that stuff, it makes it much harder to succeed. So it's almost like a forced line, and to basically say, yeah, Detroit, African American prison,
so
with guns.
This is where I am going to step in a little bit, because I don't. Obviously, research could have been done better by the artist, and the writer was actually Nasu for that Detroit EMIYA line. But, and I'll put out this big but here, Shiro is not actually black.
Yeah.
This isn't a stereotypical depiction of a black person.
Yeah.
This is just an unfortunate depiction in taking inspirations from black people. And so, because of that situation...
Regrettably, aesthetically, this is blackface.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, in the original art, this is blackface.
But I do think the use of these, like, visual tropes and of that, like, the Detroit, like, the gangster look, that is an American cultural export that reached Japan and probably doesn't have the same cultural understanding in Japan.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what happened here.
Yeah, I think the intention here was not to incite a racial conflict, but regrettably, and the thing is, backpedaling as hard as they did and censoring it, I think was not the right decision, because we are, as a culture, becoming more and more sensitive to censored media and the idea that companies want to, like, tailor their products to appeal to demographics, and they will change it from place to place in the world. And we don't like that as a people. Like, we don't like being singled out in that way. And censorship is a complex issue, because in this case, the censorship is not meant with a negative... Like, the censorship is not meant to be doing something bad, right? The censorship is actively meant to be trying to kind of pull back and autocorrect on a character, right? To make it less problematic.
But it's becoming a part of a larger discussion.
Yeah, where, okay, is it right to just try to pull back on just the American server because of the American connotation? And, like, be like, oh, no, actually, his skin is much lighter, and he just got this... Because the thing is, he's still very dark in the other art, right? So I don't mind the paler version.
Mm-hmm.
I just almost don't like that they backpedaled on this. I wish that they had, like, owned up to this, and then if they were gonna change it, make it a conscientious change across all servers, not just the North American one. Personally.
It's really complicated.
Yeah.
Because then
how do you
turn around and explain that to the Japanese audience?
Yeah, because, like, you don't have that cultural history, and, like, you don't hear about it in the news. Because I remember when I was in middle school, I got a new pair of tennis shoes, right? They were like white tennis shoes, right? And they came with one pair of white laces and one pair of red laces. And I got walked into the principal's office and told to take out my red shoelaces and go without shoelaces for a day, right? That's not something that translates to Japan.
But you'll notice, although they didn't backtrack on the Japanese server, they have lore-wise. It seems like the American servers one is just the more reflected in the current canon, and that they're just going to chalk the Japanese server one up to an art style difference now.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah.
I don't envy the situation that the localizers were in, that Aniplex is in, trying to bring this over.
Yeah, that's a funky place to be. Do I get an answer on that yellow detailing though? Is that a reference to kintsugi?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Kintsugi?
Not really, no.
Okay, so kintsugi is an art of repair. It's basically where you take shattered ceramics and other things like that, and rather than trying to repair them in a way that appears seamless, you actually fill in the cracks and gaps with gold filament to make a new art piece that's reflective of the breaks and changes.
That's exactly what's happening here.
Okay, so it is a reference to kintsugi, which is actually really cool because I think kintsugi is like a really amazing way to repair things, because I think that keeping in mind that something was broken and showing that you can still like repair something that has been broken and make it like a beautiful piece of art is actually a really wonderful statement. So I love the concept of kintsugi. And that's what I thought it was this whole time. So 10 out of 10. I actually really love that. Like genuinely, honestly, if you had just told me, right? To be honest, if you had just told me that like this, right? This was it, I would have been like, odd choice for hairstyle, but okay. You know? Like, I would not have really noticed it would have just been like, it just like looks like a slightly different shading
It's all
style.
the other stuff and how open they were that this was definitely inspired by Western.
I will say though, I do appreciate how open they're being about the changes, right? Like, I can't be that mad when it's not something that they're trying to, like, erase from the internet and delete from people's memories, right? It's not like they're gaslighting us, telling us, oh, like, EMIYA was never that dark. No, we know he was. And we know it was problematic. And we know that they're, like, trying to kind of fix that. Not fix it, but change it. I'm not mad about that. Like I said, if you'd just shown me this first, I probably wouldn't have even noticed anything was different, because I would have just assumed that, you know, the shading's a bit different, but I just take that up to being maybe a different artist, or they've evolved in their art style slightly.
And it is a different artist, mind you. So.
Yeah, so, like, honestly, I really have no issues with this. I mean, other than the whole, like, prison
the background and the history
Detroit.
of all this is...
Yeah, the prison in Detroit, that's not great, but...
When you lay it out, you see how we came to this conclusion.
Yeah.
It's just... It's messy and complicated.
Yeah. But yeah.
So yeah, just abilities-wise, because we still haven't covered those.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We also haven't covered relationships and stuff over here, like the extra art that I might not get to see. See, that looks really cool. You know?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see the rest, except for this. I love how those are almost impossible to see. Okay, not many relationships. Looking at the non-rotten me is disgusting, and from his viewpoint, I'm sure that I look like some horrible monster that needs to die. It makes sense. My past self, who put a bitter smile as if saying he can't pull a complaint even if killed. It's translated a little funky. Probably needed some grammatical corrections. What's the point of a fiendish beast wearing a crown? Cucullin, aren't you yourself the thorn of death? Which, on that note, another character whose, like, skin was canonically darkened in a different... Like, Coulter also has darkened skin, and I didn't even notice that. Like, it's not something that I, like, looked at and was like, huh, that's I didn't care enough to...
It really is only as big an issue as it is when you start getting into the, like, going... Like, this one with it step too far. Yeah. And now it makes you look back like, oh.
I still don't really have an issue with Coulter, I'm going to be honest, because I don't really see... anything around it that's particularly icky, but, you know. Anyways, I don't have much of opinion in matters and affairs regarding this woman. I will simply kill her, no matter how many times, if her way of being propagates through society and brings harm to it. Valid. You and that boy, well, fuck you for killing Taiga. Anyways, now you can get into abilities.
So, EMIYA Alter is capable of the same projections as normal EMIYA, but his methods are different. Instead of making a bow and firing swords, he turns Kancho and Byakuya into guns and fires smaller, condensed weapons that act as broken phantasms, lightly exploding within his opponents. He also has such little sense of self that he can make his body act in the single most pragmatic way in any given situation. As well, he has a form of protection from arrows that just means bullets can't harm him.
Okay. Alright. Bulletproof treatment.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Unlimited Lost Works?
So EMIYA basically loads the entirety of Unlimited Blade Works into a single bullet that, once it enters the opponent's body, releases every weapon of Unlimited Blade Works outwards, causing the body to explode in all directions as swords fly out of them.
Mm-hmm. The way that this artist is it's the hang on. There we go. I wanted the artist. Okay. So the same person who did Fuma Kotaro.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, honestly, it feels like they just designed an entirely different character and then called it EMIYA.
They were probably told to do EMIYA, and they took design elements from EMIYA, but they did take their own creative liberties just based off of some of the direction they were given, which was probably guns.
Yeah.
Lost
Oh, Jesus, that's loud. So this is the JP sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of was almost expecting more out of the sprite, but I guess it's pretty old.
Year 2.5 to 3.
Okay. I don't know, for some reason I just was expecting more.
He was released right after the end of part 1.
Okay.
Like, he's not even as rough as regular EMIYA animation.
No. Yeah. It is a little weird to see him go back to swords. Valid. Let's take it up to his animation. There we go. Oof.
Unlimited lost works.
Okay. I almost wish we got a whole different prayer write-up.
Like there was a full one that's been
Yeah.
I don't... click into... Or I guess you already closed the page.
Yeah, I already did.
I think there might have been something. Let me take a look before we continue.
Because now we have the part that's going to kill me for tonight.
Okay, there is actually a full prayer.
Oh, okay.
I am the bone of my sword. Steel is my heart and fire is my mind. I have created over 1,000 blades, unknown to hope, nor known to meaning. Having accepted pain, embraced futility, I am lost to the world and myself. My despair is unlimited lost works.
Oh, okay. I like that. All right. Oh, we have so many cute chibi things. Oh. Headbutt. Okay. China? Or what is this? This is like the 3D renderings of like the arcade cards or something? Is this the arcade 3D?
I don't know what this is.
Because it is 3D rendered.
It could be an exclusive like Chinese thing.
Oh, okay. Ah, feet pics. Who put him in the go-go cage?
Some fairies, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Hey, look! Night parade of 100 demons. Knick-knack. Nurarchion no mago. Limited 0 over. Convergence is proof of one's ideals. As you hammer the blade upon the anvil, you burn thyself all the more brightly.
This is the CE that predates EMIYA. Or, Muramasa.
Okay. Interesting. Continuation of what happens after. The battle eventually ended and he returned to his work. He goes through his days, goes about his business, builds a home, loves, and gets involved in people's lives. As long as one is alive, there is suffering, yet even if one meets death, joy will live on. Life is not a single point. It is a continuous path that connects the past to the future. Well, there you have it. Take it. It's a keepsake, a souvenir. Even if we all are forgotten, it'll be a memento that everyone will see and know you did something great. Well, if you've taken a liking to it, make it a family heirloom and show it off to your kids or something. Sometimes one doesn't need to sever karma, but rather to make enduring connections. Honestly, I can't believe I made something magnificent without intending that it be used. Maybe I'm going senile. Interesting. Artisan's mochi. Yum. I could go for mochi right now. A hibachi, a Japanese brazier made by Senji Muramasa, which is sure to be handy during cold winter days. Muramasa claims the mochi is the intended gift, so hurry up and eat it. But they are both precious gifts, with a great deal of thought and effort put into them. The inscription on the hibachi says, "Be of sound health." It's as if he's trying to say that that's the most important thing to be. Truly, a grandpa. Night Parade of 100 Demons! Tengu! Fox! Oni. Know the demon's ways to annihilate demons. I see, that's not a bad idea. I didn't expect an outfit like that to exist in this age. Brings back memories. Seriously, I'm in the Oni getup? A peculiar trio was formed by the demand of a particularly passionate group of people in Chaldea. As a side note, first unit captain bribed vice commander into participating with takuan pickles. It's Watanabe no Tsuna and Hijikata Toshizo.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Heroic Spirit Tour, Senji Muramasa. And this is in Everest Base Camp Trail, Nepal. Same setting as Gareth and Xuanzang Sanzang.
Yep, you now know everyone in that photo.
Yep. Well, okay, there we go. Yeah. I have opinions about climbing Everest. Oh, I saw this art before and I thought it looked so cool. Treasure of the Caribbean. Sailing the endless blue sea in search of forgotten treasure so I can see for myself whether it's worthy of the name. After all, you can't tell whether something's treasure or not until you find it. This is just Captain Jack Sparrow, but Muramasa. This looks great. Like, genuinely. That looks fantastic.
It's fun.
Yeah. Chaldea Satellite Station. I
think I see him.
Are you assuming that's him?
Yeah, but I could be wrong if you see him in better detail.
I mean, it might be. It's just a little hard to tell. That might be Arash. Oh, that's Arash. Yeah, so that must be him. It's just hard to tell. I am gonna skip this because there are names mentioned, and we'll come back to it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember when we did this. So we already read this one out. And I remember because it doesn't name any names, and we did it when we did Rasputin, I think. Yeah. The Chinese 6th anniversary. Oh, he's right there. Very easy to find. Okay. EMIYA. Man, he looks derpy. Gotta love that. Jesus. Do not need that many stills. I promise you. Oh Sekhie!
Go use the bathroom.
You're gonna leave me here doing this?
Yep.
Why?
Have a good one.
What the fuck, knick-knack? Oh boy. Okay, I think that's Gilgamesh and Cuchulainn. It is. Okay, I was correct. Chaldea Boys Collection. That's Dante's. Yeah? Dante's and EMIYA, yep. Paracelsus and Vladdy, I thought so. The monocle threw me. Oh, they're gonna make me an outfit. Cute. Okay, we saw this before, but I think Mandricardo, Qinxi Huang, I think that's Altera. There's EMIYA. There's Abby. This is very cute. I like this. I think we know almost everyone in it now. Ah, yes, the boyfriends. The boyfriends. The three of them. It's always the three of them together. It's such a vibe. I really do love it. Foot pick. Okay. That's a lot of C's. I know I've already done some of these. We'll delete them as we come to them.
Okay.
I'm not sorting them as I open them.
A raw amount of C's, though.
Yeah. So, like, for example, I'm pretty sure we've done this because I recognize this. So, kiss your hand. And I know who they are. I looked through those arts already. It's the boyfriends and the third wheel. That being Gilgamesh. Okay. Holy Maiden leading Chaldea. He's just in the background there. So this is Jean's. So let me skip past that. Hunter of the Red Plains. Okay, that's our first. A soldier is running through the crossfire. The guardian takes out his targets precisely, swiftly, and mercilessly. He cannot abandon the mission he was tasked, nor can he save the many lives he wished to, but the ambition consumes him like fire as he keeps resisting the unavoidable fate. Okay. This is just the Fate Extella description. Altera in the background with Nero and Tamamo, and there's Artoria, and is Skandar back there?
Yes, Iskandar's in the game.
And there he is. Okay. Alright. Spiritron portrait Nameless. A nameless bowman in a crimson coat who sides with Nero. He is a nameless heroic spirit with no true name, but he can adapt his fighting style to whatever method he wants. And despite being an archer, he can use twin blades in close quarters combat. He may look like a realist who highly values logic, but he can actually be very emotionally attached. Nero doesn't really remember when he joined her side, but this mysterious stranger supports the new king from the shadows. I won't ask questions about your situation. My own circumstances are pretty complicated. Okay. Firing the first arrow. Ooh. There's a tradition to start the new year with a display of archery. If all 4 shots strike their targets, you know that the year is going to be a good one. Valid. Cookbook. Ooh. That looks very good. You can still learn housework starting now set. Valentine's return gift. What? Seriously? A basic utensil cooking set, a yin and yang knife, mittens, cutting board, frying pan, pot, apron, and a basic cookbook. There's no doubt that this is proof of his sentiments, but it's true that it'll come in handy. But seriously, really? I've gifted you a Dutch oven, and I've gifted you cookbooks. We're halfway there. Okay, I saw this earlier. Finally, there's a troubling case calling our names. The time is Japan's T.H.E period and the world is at peace. During his spring vacation, the great detective runs into a prudish officer with a scowl and a fledgling student who always seems to show up at crime scenes. The three of them together make the Three Stooges, the Three Amigos. Strange cases are sure to follow whenever they are together. Okay. Battle companion. At first it was not serious, a relationship merely established by command spells, but as we raced through the night we began to truly trust each other. This bond is now unbreakable. Party time! He's just in the background. We covered this for... We haven't covered this yet, because there's a character in here I don't know.
Yep.
Is that same here, or do I know her? Is that Atalanta?
Yeah, it's
Okay, that's what I thought. It was understood the moment they faced each other. One could only protect through murder, one could only grant their wish through salvage. Two conflicting beliefs, and at the end of it all. Oh yeah, we've seen this, and we've read it. I remember Unlimited Burger Works. Yup. And we've seen this one. It's The Boyfriends and the Third Wheel. I'm never gonna stop making that joke so long as it makes you cringe. Encounter in the Dark Night. Who the hell are you? He has skill with a blade and a demeanor unfamiliar. His two gleaming, glaring eyes are brighter than the city lights that shine within the darkness. And even that doesn't jog my memory. And yet the man standing before me seems somehow familiar. Honestly, who the hell are you? Your boyfriend! It's Coulter! Hello, darling. So this is Paracelsus and Vladdy. Welcome. What sort of outfit do you need? We will gladly accept orders of any sort. On a street corner in a certain ancient city, a tailor offers unparalleled service to both ladies and gentlemen. Every single customer is assigned an employee exclusively, and they are all first class. Their stylings and coordination are sure to give you confidence in any social occasion. Valid. The path I saw in my dreams. Okay, so this is a Heaven's Feel tie-in. Okay. Winter Caravan Online. I think I now know everyone here. I do. I officially know everyone in this art with this video. I remember the last time we saw this was on Qinshi Huang, and we skipped it because I hadn't done EMIYA yet.
Yup.
But yeah. The theme for this year's Winter Caravan is it's fun online too. We'll have fun together even stuck in our rooms. 2021.
Yeah, I wonder how.
Yep. We've seen this. We did it when we did Ku. We did this when we did Ku. And maybe Gilgamesh. We've also done this. Okay. Heroic Spirit Encounter Archer. The beginning of the night, which has continued till the present day. Fate's Day Night. Even after 20 years, the wish remains unchanged. Mr. Red Gadget. Look at the
NECA work.
Yeah. Alright, let's see. Ooh, it's new. Dancing Dragon Castle. That's the Kyo, right?
Yep.
A mobile phone shop with a variety of models on display. From the latest touch panel type to the bifold type, choosing one can be a pain if you consider the features as well. Meanwhile, I suddenly picked up a red flip phone. For some reason, I feel a strange sensation. It's like someday, somewhere, I've encountered something terrible. Alright. Last one. Thank God. Oh boy. Baseball. Sucker. Okay. Down. Not really... Oh, Google Play gift card that you could get. Karna, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Foot pick.
Handpicks.
Oh, yeah, handpicks too. Not that many, just 4. Kansho and Bakuya. Handguns. I don't care what my weapon is as long as it's easy to channel my magical energy into sufficient destructive power, that's all that matters. Screw the creator's passion. Weapons are just tools designed to make killing more efficient. Nothing more, nothing less. Bearer's pride, don't make me laugh. It's absolutely pathetic that someone couldn't even kill without assigning some impressive reason for existing to their tool. What, you got a problem with me? Then pick up that gun and shoot me in the head. That ought to shut me up. Okay. Heroic Spirit formal dress. With the gun holsters. Makes sense. Second anniversary. Save wire. Valentine's return gift. If you ever want to go up, just let me know. I'll hoist you up without complaint or torment. Your ascent may be far from graceful, but your unsightly flailing is very human. Don't you agree? Bitch. We about to fight. The ivories are ticketed, the brass reverberates, and the beats pound to the rhythm. All this combines into a single melody, and it echoes into the crimson sky. Etiquette of Thaumaturgy. Ah, Satanta and Kid Gil. Now I know everyone here. We did not review this last time.
未来の俺、キャスター適性あんだよな。あんまピンとは来ねえけど、今のうちに魔術やらを試しとくってのはありだ。
それは僕にも当てはまりますね。せっかくですから一緒に学んでみましょうか。この学園、少し気になることもありますし。
復活の時は近い。幼き怪物たちよ。心して待つがいい。
In the future, I'm apt to be a caster. I don't really get the hang of it, but it makes sense for me to try out magic while I can. The same applies to me, right? Why don't we learn together? Caster Gil and Caster Cucullin. In the future. There are some things I'm a little worried about in this school. There are rumors about Chaldea Academy of Magic. A long time ago, an excellent magician fell into darkness and was sealed away somewhere in the school. The time of resurrection is near. Young monsters wait patiently. It's a Harry Potter reference.
Yup.
That's Hogwarts.
Yup.
That is like dead ass a like Chamber of Secrets ass Voldemort reference.
Well, we do know that they at least liked Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Because remember in Adventures Volume 1, they directly canonize like an element of Harry Potter into Tight Moves.
Yeah. Yeah. When is this from?
That one's more recent.
2024. Do me a favor, would you?
Yeah.
Would you look up Dumbledore's promise to Grindelwald in the second and third movie of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, that little charm that was a marker piece of it.
This?
Looks very similar.
A little bit.
Yeah. Oh my god, look, there's the little doggy. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I love a good Harry Potter reference.
So yeah, that's Muramasa and EMIYA.
Yup.
I said I'd take us at least 40 minutes.
You... Oh boy, you took way more than 40 minutes. Oh my god. Every part of me hurts. I've been sitting in this chair for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Knick-Knack, what is the hint for the next servant? Spit it out.
How do I put a hint out for that one?
I once wrote a paper on how Queen Hatshepsut might have been this historical figure.
There we go. We'll run with that. Sorry, this historical figure has not gotten a lot to do. This is not going to be a long video next time.
Well,
be much shorter than this.
We'll see you next time, folks. Like, comment, subscribe.